Imagine if one small change could completely reshape your future. Welcome to this moment of calm and reflection. In today's video, we're diving deep into the transformative power of Atomic Habits by James Clear. Take a moment to breathe, relax, and open your mind to the wisdom that this book offers. This video is about understanding how the smallest, most consistent actions can lead to extraordinary growth. Atomic Habits isn't about one-time, life-altering breakthroughs. It's about making small, meaningful changes each day that, over time, compound into massive transformation. James Clear, through over a decade of research, has shown us that success is born from everyday habits, not from the big, dramatic moments we often expect. His approach is simple, actionable, and deeply impactful, perfect for anyone looking to create lasting change. So sit back, take a deep breath, and let these insights settle into your heart. It's time to build the habits that will shape the best version of you. Chapter 1: The 1% Rule. As we begin our journey through Atomic Habits, let's start with the foundation of it all, Chapter 1, where James Clear introduces the concept of the 1% rule. This simple yet profound idea forms the heart of the book, showing us how tiny changes, when compounded, lead to incredible transformations. The core idea of this chapter is that you don't need to make drastic, life-altering changes overnight. Instead, you can focus on making small, incremental improvements just 1% better each day. These little changes may not seem significant in the moment, but over time, they compound into something powerful. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, growing bigger and bigger the more it moves. Imagine for a moment, if you get just 1% better every day at the end of the year, you will have improved by 37 times. Yes, that's 37 times better, simply by focusing on those small, consistent improvements each day. But if you get 1% worse each day, you'll find yourself in a much worse place after a year, falling further from your goals. Take a deep breath and let that idea sink in. It's the small things, done consistently, that lead to big results. Whether you're working on improving your health, productivity, or mindset, the secret isn't in doing everything at once. It's about making small improvements every single day. Small habits that, when practiced over time, create significant change. James Clear also talks about the importance of systems over goals. Goals are important, but they are often too vague or too distant to keep us on track. It's the systems, the daily habits, the routines that guide us towards success. So, when we focus on small improvements, we aren't just setting distant goals. We are creating habits that shape our identity. Let's pause for a moment and think, what's one small improvement you could make today? Perhaps it's something simple, like drinking an extra glass of water or adding 5 minutes of stretching to your day. These small steps, when done consistently, will add up and bring you closer to the person you want to become. Now, take another deep breath, relax, and reflect on your current habits. Are there any that you could improve by just 1%? As you listen to this chapter, keep that small yet powerful idea in mind. Focus on small, consistent changes and trust that, over time, they will make all the difference. Chapter 2: How your habits shape your identity and vice versa. Now, let's move on to Chapter 2 of Atomic Habits, where James Clear introduces us to one of the most powerful ideas in the book: how our habits shape our identity, and how our identity shapes our habits in return. This is a transformative idea and it helps us understand that the key to lasting change isn't just about what we do, it's about who we believe ourselves to be. In this chapter, Clear makes a key distinction between outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. Outcome-based habits focus on the results, like wanting to lose weight, run a marathon, or write a book. While these are important goals, they often feel distant or unattainable. In contrast, identity-based habits are about who you want to become. Instead of focusing on the outcome, you focus on building the identity of the person who achieves that outcome. For example, rather than saying, "I want to lose 20 pounds, you start thinking, "I am someone who takes care of my health." This subtle shift in mindset has the power to transform the way you approach habits. When your actions align with the identity you want to adopt, the change becomes much more sustainable and effortless. Take a deep breath and reflect on this for a moment. Who do you want to become? Are you someone who values consistency? Someone who prioritizes self-care? When you think of your future self, what kind of person do you see? You see, your habits are the way that you prove your identity to yourself every day. Each time you take a small action that aligns with the person you want to be, you reinforce that identity. It's like you're telling yourself, "This is who I am now." James Clear explains that identity change is the North Star of habit formation. If you focus on becoming the type of person you want to be, your actions will naturally follow. So instead of asking, "What do I need to do to achieve this goal?" ask yourself, "Who do I want to become, and what habits can I create to reinforce that identity?" Take another deep breath and think about this. Is there a habit you would like to build, but it feels difficult or too far from who you see yourself as? Perhaps you'd like to read more often or exercise regularly, but the thought of it doesn't quite align with your current identity. Now, what would it look like if you told yourself, "I am someone who reads every day," or "I am someone who moves their body every morning"? How would that shift in thinking impact your actions? Let's pause for a moment and reflect on the identity you want to adopt. Is there a small habit you could begin today that would align with that new identity? Maybe it's taking 5 minutes each morning to write, or making a habit of drinking water throughout the day. The key is not to focus on the outcome right away, but to start with the identity and let your actions naturally flow from there. Now, take a moment to relax and allow this idea to settle in. Every small habit you build is a reflection of the person you are becoming. Trust in this process, and remember, every habit you practice, no matter how small, is a step toward reinforcing the identity you wish to cultivate. Chapter 3: How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. In Chapter 3 of Atomic Habits, James Clear lays out a simple yet powerful framework for building better habits. He introduces us to the 4 stages of habit formation, which Clear calls the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. These 4 steps are the foundation of habit building, and they offer a clear path to making small, lasting changes. Let's take a moment to break down each of these laws and how we can use them to create habits that stick. 1. Make it obvious. The first law is about making the cues for your habits obvious. This is about creating an environment that reminds you to take action. If you want to build a habit, the first thing you need to do is make it clear when to act. For example, if you want to start exercising in the morning, leave your workout clothes out where you can see them. If you want to drink more water, place a bottle of water on your desk. By making the cue for your habit visible, it becomes easier to remember and take action. Take a deep breath and think about this. What are the cues in your life that are leading you toward good habits, and which ones might be encouraging bad habits? Maybe it's a notification on your phone or a certain time of day. Identifying these cues can help you make your environment more supportive of your goals. 2. Make it attractive. The second law is to make the habit attractive. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure, and we're more likely to repeat behaviors that are enjoyable. The more attractive you make a habit, the easier it will be to stick with. Clear suggests pairing habits you need to do with habits you enjoy. This is called habit stacking. For example, if you love listening to music, you can make a habit of listening to your favorite tunes while exercising. Take a moment to reflect. What can you do to make your new habits more enjoyable? Is there something you already love doing that you could combine with a habit you're trying to build? 3. Make it easy. The third law is to make the habit easy. We're more likely to follow through with habits that are simple and require minimal effort. The key here is to reduce friction, make it as easy as possible to get started. Clear talks about the importance of the 2-minute rule, the idea that any habit can be started in less than 2 minutes. If your goal is to exercise, for example, start by simply putting on your workout clothes or doing just one push-up. The goal is not to overcomplicate things, but to start small and build from there. Let's take a deep breath and think. What's one small action you can take today that will make your habit easier? Maybe it's setting out your clothes the night before or preparing a healthy snack ahead of time. 4. Make it satisfying. The final law is to make the habit satisfying. We are more likely to repeat behaviors that feel rewarding. This is where positive reinforcement comes in. Clear suggests that you track your habits and reward yourself when you complete them. For example, after completing a habit, give yourself a small reward, like taking a moment to relax or savor a cup of tea. Tracking your progress with a simple checklist can also help make your new habits more satisfying. Take a moment to reflect. How can you make your new habits more satisfying? Could you celebrate your progress with a small treat, or take a moment to feel proud of yourself? These small rewards create positive feedback loops that will keep you motivated. Let's pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and reflect on these 4 laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. These simple steps provide a clear and actionable path toward building lasting habits. Think about a habit you want to build. What small, obvious cues can you add to your environment to remind yourself? What can you do to make it more enjoyable? How can you make it easier to start? And what rewards can you use to make it satisfying? These 4 laws, when applied together, have the power to make lasting changes, one small step at a time. Chapter 4. The Man Who Didn't Look Right. In Chapter 4, James Clear introduces us to an important concept, the power of identity, and how our habits are linked to our identity, how they shape who we are, and how we see ourselves. This chapter centers around a powerful story of how one person's change in behavior, rooted in identity, led to remarkable transformation. Clear tells us about the story of a man who had difficulty forming good habits until he started seeing himself differently. He changed his mindset from "I am trying to quit smoking" to "I am not a smoker." This shift wasn't just about changing behavior, it was about shifting the way he saw himself. And this shift in identity was the turning point for him. The main idea in this chapter is that identity change is the key to long-lasting habit change. So often, we think about changing habits as a process of doing, but true change starts with being. When you change who you believe you are, the actions follow. Take a moment to reflect. How do you see yourself? Are you someone who struggles with bad habits? Or are you someone who is actively building the habits of the person you want to become? Our actions are a reflection of our self-image. The key to lasting habit change isn't in what you do, it's in who you believe you are. James Clear explains that when you focus on identity-based habits, you stop asking yourself, what do I need to do to achieve my goals? Instead, you ask, who do I want to become, and what habits will help me get there? This shift in mindset can change the way we approach every habit in our lives. Now, take a deep breath and think, what is the identity you want to embrace? Maybe you want to be someone who values health, or someone who is productive, or someone who enjoys learning. What small habit could you build today that would reflect that identity? Let's pause and take this in. The power of identity change doesn't come from external goals. It comes from within. It comes from aligning your actions with the type of person you want to be. Your habits are a reflection of the identity you've created for yourself. Take a few moments to visualize yourself as the person you want to become. See yourself living with the habits you wish to embody. Imagine feeling proud of who you are and what you've achieved, not because of the goals you've reached, but because of the person you've become through your consistent actions. Chapter 5. The best way to start a new habit in Chapter 5 of Atomic Habits. James Clear presents a simple yet powerful strategy for starting new habits. This chapter focuses on the concept of habit stacking and how to make new habits easier to implement by linking them to behaviors you already do automatically. The core idea here is that starting a new habit doesn't need to be overwhelming or complicated. Instead, you can build a new habit by stacking it on top of an existing one. This approach is called habit stacking, and it works because it takes advantage of the automatic behaviors we already have. For example, Clear suggests that if you want to start a new habit, such as stretching every morning, you can stack it onto an already established habit, like brushing your teeth. After you brush your teeth, you'll immediately do your stretching routine. The power of this technique lies in the connection between an existing habit, which already feels natural, and a new one that you want to form. Take a moment and reflect. What's a habit that you already do every day? Maybe it's drinking your morning coffee, or maybe you check your phone as soon as you wake up. Now, think about how you could link a new habit to that existing behavior. Could you take a few minutes to meditate after your coffee, or maybe read a page of a book right after checking your phone? Clear also mentions that the key to making habit stacking work is to be specific. Don't just say, I'll meditate after breakfast. Instead, say, after I eat breakfast, I'll meditate for 5 minutes in the living room. The more precise your habit stack, the easier it will be to follow through. Take a deep breath and think, what small habit could you start stacking today? It doesn't have to be anything big. The goal is to make it so simple that it feels effortless. The more specific and connected you make the new habit to your existing routines, the more likely you are to stick with it. Chapter 6. The Secret to Self-Control. In Chapter 6 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses one of the most important topics when it comes to habit formation: self-control. The common belief is that self-control is all about sheer willpower, the ability to resist temptation and stay disciplined. But Clear introduces a fresh perspective. He shows us that the secret to self-control isn't about trying to exert more willpower. It's about changing your environment. Clear argues that environment design is far more effective than relying on willpower alone. Our environment can either support our habits or sabotage them. The key to building lasting habits is to create an environment that makes good habits easier and bad habits harder. For example, if you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with nutritious foods and make unhealthy snacks harder to access. If you want to read more, place books in places you frequent, like on your bedside table or in your living room. The idea is to make the cues for your good habits obvious and the cues for your bad habits invisible. Take a moment and reflect. What environment are you creating around yourself? Is it helping you build the habits you want, or is it making it harder? Perhaps your phone is always within arm's reach, tempting you to check social media when you want to focus. Could you leave your phone in another room while you work? Claire also explains that temptation bundling can help us with self-control. This concept involves pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, if you love watching your favorite TV show, you could only allow yourself to watch it while walking on the treadmill. This way, you get the reward of the show, but you also reinforce the habit of exercising. As you breathe deeply and think about your own habits, consider this: what temptations are getting in your way? How can you design your environment to make it easier for you to do what you know is good for you? Small shifts in your environment can make a big difference in your ability to stick with good habits. Another key idea in this chapter is that self-control is easier when we remove friction from good habits and add friction to bad habits. For example, if you want to start exercising in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. So the only thing you need to do in the morning is put them on. By reducing the friction, you make it easier to take action. Now, let's take a moment to reflect. Think about one habit you'd like to build. What small changes can you make to your environment to make this habit easier to do? Could you make your workspace more organized or place reminders to help you stay on track? Start by making one small shift in your environment today and see how it influences your habits. Chapter 7. The Secret to Lasting Habits. In Chapter 7 of Atomic Habits, James Clear explores the secret to lasting habits, focusing on how we can make our new behaviors stick for the long term. The secret, as Clear explains, lies in the idea of habit reinforcement, making our new habits satisfying and rewarding so they continue to fuel our motivation. Clear introduces the concept of reinforcement through rewards. He explains that our brains are wired to repeat behaviors that bring us satisfaction. To make a new habit stick, it's crucial to create a system where we experience immediate rewards for doing the right thing, even if the ultimate goal is far in the future. For example, when you start a new habit, it might take a while before you see significant results, but you can still give yourself small rewards along the way. Maybe after you complete your workout, you reward yourself with a hot shower or a relaxing activity. These immediate rewards make it more likely that you'll keep repeating the behavior. Take a moment to think about your own habits. What rewards do you associate with your positive actions? Do you feel satisfied after you make progress toward your goals? Sometimes we forget to acknowledge our small wins, and that can make us feel discouraged. Clear emphasizes that it's vital to celebrate the small victories, even if they seem insignificant. Another key idea in this chapter is the importance of tracking your habits. By keeping track of your progress, you give yourself visible evidence of your success, which reinforces your efforts and boosts motivation. Clear recommends using a habit tracker, something as simple as a calendar where you mark off each day you complete your habit. Let's pause and reflect. Do you track your progress in any area of your life? How might tracking your habits help you stay on course and reinforce your progress? Imagine checking off each day as you work toward your goals. It feels good to see that progress visually, doesn't it? Clear also discusses the idea of making habits enjoyable in the long run. He talks about how your identity and the way you view the habit play a role in how long it lasts. The more you associate a habit with something that feels rewarding, the more likely it is to become a part of your life. Take a deep breath and think about how you can make your habits more enjoyable. Can you link them with something that brings you joy or relaxation? Perhaps while listening to your favorite music, you could fold your laundry or tidy up. Little things like this can turn necessary tasks into pleasurable activities. Now, think about one habit you want to keep long term. How can you make it satisfying? How can you add an element of reward or pleasure to it? By doing this, you'll make it easier to stay committed and maintain the habit for the long haul. Chapter 8. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits in Chapter 8 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses an often overlooked aspect of habit formation, the powerful influence that family, friends, and our social environment have on our behaviors. Clear reveals how the people around us can either support or hinder our habit-building efforts. Clear explains that habits are not just personal, they are social. We are social creatures, and we tend to adopt the habits of those around us. This is why it can be so challenging to change habits when your environment is full of distractions, negative influences, or habits that don't align with the person you want to become. The people you spend time with can shape your behaviors, often without you even realizing it. If your friends are active, you're more likely to be active. If your family enjoys healthy meals together, you're more likely to do the same. In contrast, if your social circles are filled with unhealthy habits, it can be harder to break free from them. Take a deep breath and think, what habits are you influenced by in your social circle? Are they habits that support the person you want to become, or do they conflict with your goals? Sometimes, the people around us unknowingly pull us back into old behaviors, even if we're trying to make positive changes. Clear also discusses how social reinforcement works. When we see others engage in a particular behavior, we are more likely to adopt that behavior ourselves. This is why accountability can be so powerful. When we share our goals with friends or join groups that support our habits, we reinforce those behaviors with positive social feedback. Imagine this: you're part of a group that encourages healthy eating, or you have a friend who holds you accountable for your workout routines. These positive social environments create a sense of belonging, and in turn, they reinforce the habits you're trying to build. Take a moment to reflect. Who in your life supports your goals and habits? Is there anyone who might be unknowingly pulling you away from the person you want to be? How can you surround yourself with people who uplift your habits and help you stay on track? James Clear suggests that one of the most effective ways to build good habits is to join a group that has the habits you want to form. Whether it's a workout class, a book club, or a support group, being surrounded by others who are working towards similar goals can help you stay motivated and consistent. Now, take a deep breath and think about your social circle. Are there habits you could begin to share with your friends and family? Maybe it's setting a time to exercise together or creating a shared habit of reading. Small changes like this can strengthen the bonds you have with others, while also reinforcing the positive habits you want to build. Chapter 9. The Goldilocks Rule: How to Stay Motivated in Life and Work in Chapter 9 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces the Goldilocks rule, a powerful concept for maintaining motivation in any area of life. The Goldilocks rule explains how to find the sweet spot between boredom and overwhelm to keep us engaged and motivated over the long term. The core idea is simple. To stay motivated, we need to engage in tasks that are not too easy and not too hard. Instead, they should be at the right level of difficulty, where they challenge us just enough to keep us interested and engaged, but not so much that we feel overwhelmed. Clear uses the example of a person learning a new skill, like playing a musical instrument or working out. If the challenge is too easy, you'll lose interest quickly. If it's too difficult, you'll become frustrated and give up. The sweet spot is somewhere in between, when the task is challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so difficult that it feels impossible. Take a deep breath and reflect. Think about something you're currently working on, whether it's a personal goal or a professional project. Is it in the Goldilocks zone? Is it challenging enough to keep you motivated, or is it too easy or too hard? Understanding where you are in this zone can help you find ways to stay motivated, even when the task feels daunting. The Goldilocks rule also explains why we often experience bursts of motivation at the beginning of a new habit or project, because it's exciting and challenging. However, as time goes on, that initial excitement fades, and we might feel like quitting. Clear advises us to find ways to keep things in the Goldilocks zone, to keep things just challenging enough to sustain our interest and motivation over time. Now, take a moment and think. How can you apply the Goldilocks rule to your own life? Can you make a current task just a little more challenging to keep it exciting? Perhaps you can increase the weight you're lifting at the gym, or challenge yourself to read one more chapter in a book each night. Little adjustments like this can keep the process fresh and motivating. Clear also suggests that the most successful people are those who continuously seek that perfect balance between challenge and skill. They actively seek out tasks that stretch their abilities without overwhelming them, and they do so consistently. This is the key to long-term motivation. As we breathe deeply and reflect on this, think about how you can structure your habits or routines to keep them in the Goldilocks zone. If you find yourself getting bored, try raising the challenge just a little. If you feel overwhelmed, scale back to something more manageable. The Goldilocks rule can keep you motivated, energized, and engaged over the long haul. Chapter 10, The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. In Chapter 10 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses what he calls the cardinal rule of behavior change, which is the idea that behaviors that are immediately satisfying are more likely to be repeated. This concept is key to making new habits stick, as it ties directly into how our brains process rewards and motivation. Clear explains that our brains are wired to repeat actions that feel good in the moment. When a behavior is rewarding right away, it reinforces the habit loop, making it more likely that the behavior will be repeated in the future. For example, when you eat a piece of chocolate, the immediate pleasure reinforces the desire to do it again. The problem with this is that delayed rewards, like the long-term benefits of exercise or saving money, are not as motivating, because the payoff isn't instant. The key to making lasting habits is to find a way to make them immediately satisfying. This can be done by creating immediate rewards for completing a habit, or by finding a way to make the activity itself more enjoyable. Take a deep breath and think about this. Are there habits you're trying to build that don't feel rewarding right away? Perhaps you're trying to read more books or work out regularly. These habits might feel like a struggle because the rewards like improved health or knowledge aren't immediately visible. Clear suggests that linking an immediate reward to a habit can help. For example, if you want to exercise more, you could reward yourself with a relaxing bath or some time to watch your favorite show after the workout. If you want to develop a reading habit, you could enjoy a cup of tea or coffee while reading. The key is to give yourself a small, immediate reward that makes the habit more enjoyable. Another strategy Clear discusses is the concept of habit tracking, where you mark off each day that you complete a habit. This small, visual reward gives you immediate feedback on your progress, helping you feel accomplished and motivated to continue. It's a simple but powerful way to reinforce good behavior. Let's take a moment to reflect. How can you make your desired habits more immediately satisfying? Perhaps you can add a small reward after completing a task, or make the habit itself more enjoyable. Think about a habit you want to build and ask yourself, what immediate reward could I create to make this habit more enjoyable? Remember, the key to making a habit stick is making it rewarding in the present moment. When your brain associates a habit with immediate satisfaction, it becomes easier to continue and eventually integrate it into your daily routine. Chapter 11. Walk slowly, but never backward. In Chapter 11 of Atomic Habits, James Clear focuses on the importance of making consistent progress, no matter how small. This chapter's message is simple yet powerful. Progress is not always about fast leaps forward, but about steady, continuous movement, even if it's at a slower pace. Clear explains that small improvements, compounded over time, lead to big results. He emphasizes that many people give up on their goals because they expect rapid progress. However, the key to success is not about speed. It's about the consistency of your efforts. Walking slowly, but always moving forward, is better than rushing and risking burnout or giving up when things get tough. Take a deep breath and reflect. How do you approach your goals? Are you in a hurry to see results, or are you willing to take your time and make small, consistent progress every day? The idea of walking slowly, but never backward, reminds us that it's okay to take your time. The important thing is to keep moving, even if it feels slow. One powerful takeaway from this chapter is the concept of the plateau of latent potential. This is the idea that progress often feels invisible during the early stages of habit formation. You might be working hard, but the results don't show up right away. Clear encourages us to keep going, even when we don't see immediate change, because real growth is happening beneath the surface. Imagine you're planting a seed. At first, you see nothing but dirt. You water it every day, and nothing seems to change. But slowly, underneath the soil, the roots are growing. Eventually, the plant breaks through the surface and starts to grow. Your habits are the same way. Even when you don't see results right away, they are building up in ways that will eventually become visible. Let's pause and reflect. How do you feel when progress seems slow? Are you able to stay patient and trust the process? The key to lasting change is to remember that small, steady efforts add up. Keep your focus on consistent action, and don't worry if the results aren't immediately visible. Clear also advises that you should not be discouraged by setbacks. Sometimes, life gets in the way, and we slip back into old habits. The key, though, is not to give up entirely. Clear reminds us that it's not the setbacks that matter, but how you respond to them. You don't have to be perfect. Just make sure you get back on track and keep moving forward. Take a moment to think. Is there a small habit you've been trying to build, but it's felt slow or difficult? How can you be patient with yourself and continue to take small steps forward? Progress is built over time, and each small action brings you closer to your goals. Chapter 12. The Law of Least Effort. In Chapter 12 of Atomic Habits, James Clear introduces the law of least effort, which is based on the idea that we are naturally inclined to choose the option that requires the least amount of effort. This law explains why habits, behaviors, and tasks that require less energy are more likely to stick. Clear explains that human behavior is driven by the principle of efficiency. Our brains are wired to conserve energy, so we tend to favor actions that are easy, convenient, and require minimal effort. This is why building habits that require the least effort to start and maintain can have a more lasting impact. Take a deep breath and think about this. How often do you choose the easy option in your daily life? Maybe you choose to watch TV instead of going for a walk, or you grab fast food instead of cooking a healthy meal. These choices are often motivated by the law of least effort. And while they may feel easy in the moment, they may not always align with the healthier habits you want to form. The key takeaway from this chapter is that to make good habits easier, we need to reduce the friction that prevents us from following through. This could mean simplifying the process of starting a habit or making the task itself more convenient. For example, if you want to read more, make the book easily accessible, perhaps placing it on your nightstand or in your bag. If you want to work out more, lay out your gym clothes the night before so they are ready when you wake up. By making the habit easier to start, you reduce the mental effort it takes to begin. Clear also discusses environment design, the idea that we can shape our environment to make good habits easier and bad habits more difficult. If you want to avoid snacking on unhealthy foods, you could remove junk food from your kitchen and replace it with healthier options. This subtle shift in your environment can reduce the effort required to make healthier choices. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. How can you apply the law of least effort to your own habits? Think about the habits you want to build. How can you make them easier to start? Perhaps it's removing distractions or preparing your environment to make it easier to follow through. Remember, the goal isn't to make everything effortless, but to remove unnecessary friction. By doing this, you can make your good habits easier to start and keep them going with minimal effort. The law of least effort reminds us that small, efficient changes in our environment can lead to lasting transformation. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. In Chapter 13 of Atomic Habits, James Clear introduces the 2-minute rule, a simple yet powerful strategy to overcome procrastination and make starting new habits easier. The rule is simple. Any habit can be started in just 2 minutes. This rule is about making habits so easy to begin that you don't have to rely on willpower or motivation to get started. Clear explains that the most difficult part of any habit is often the start, the moment when we hesitate and procrastinate. The key to overcoming this is to make the beginning of a habit so simple that you can't say no. Instead of focusing on the big, overwhelming task, focus on doing just 2 minutes of it. This might sound too easy, but that's the point. Take a deep breath and think. What's one habit you've been putting off? Maybe it's writing, exercising, or organizing your space. Now, think about how you can break that task down into just 2 minutes. For example, instead of thinking you need to run for an hour, tell yourself you'll just put on your workout clothes and stretch for 2 minutes. Instead of writing a whole chapter, tell yourself you'll write just 1 sentence. This simple act of getting started is often enough to build momentum. Clear emphasizes that the goal of the 2-minute rule is not to finish the task immediately, but to make it so easy to start that you can't resist. Once you start, it's easier to continue. This rule works because it removes the mental friction that often comes with starting a new habit. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. Think about a habit you want to start but have been putting off. How can you make it so simple that you can do just 2 minutes? Maybe it's reading 1 page of a book instead of finishing an entire chapter, or taking a walk around the block instead of a long workout. These small steps can help break the cycle of procrastination. The beauty of the 2-minute rule is that it shows us that starting is the hardest part. By reducing the barrier to starting, you make it easier to get the ball rolling, and once you're moving, you're likely to keep going. This method not only helps you build momentum, but also trains your brain to associate small tasks with positive action. Now, take a moment to think. What is something you've been avoiding? Can you use the 2-minute rule to make it easier to get started today? Sometimes, the smallest actions lead to the biggest changes, and all it takes is 2 minutes. To begin. Chapter 14. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. In Chapter 14 of Atomic Habits, James Clear reveals a powerful strategy for making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. This chapter is about using environment, design, and habit stacking to automate your behavior and make the right choices the easiest and most natural ones. Clear explains that if you want to make a habit inevitable, the key is to create a system where good habits happen automatically. For example, if you want to eat healthier, start by stocking your fridge with healthy foods and removing junk food from your home. When the environment is designed to support your desired habits, you make it more likely that you'll make the right choices without even thinking about it. Take a deep breath and think. How can you make your environment work for you? What small changes can you make today to set yourself up for success? Maybe it's putting your gym clothes by the door or setting your workspace up to encourage focus and productivity. By setting up your environment to make the right choices easier, you eliminate the need for willpower. One of the most powerful concepts in this chapter is the idea of habit contractor, form of accountability, where you commit to a behavior and establish penalties if you fail to follow through. This creates a system of external motivation that encourages you to stick with your habits. Clear also emphasizes the importance of social influence, noting that when we involve others in our habits, we're more likely to follow through. Think about your own habits. How could you set up an environment that makes your good habits inevitable? Could you make a commitment to a friend or family member to keep yourself accountable? The more you design your environment to support your desired habits, the easier it will be to follow through. Clear also discusses how to make bad habits impossible. This involves creating friction, making those behaviors more difficult to do. For example, if you want to reduce your screen time, you could use an app that locks your phone during certain hours of the day, or put your phone in another room while you're working. By adding barriers to your bad habits, you make them harder to access and, in turn, easier to avoid. Let's pause and reflect. How can you make your bad habits more difficult to do? Can you remove cues from your environment that tempt you to fall back into old behaviors? The key here is to stack the deck in your favor by making good habits easier and bad habits harder. As we breathe deeply, consider the power of your environment in shaping your habits. By taking control of your surroundings, you can set yourself up for success without having to rely solely on willpower or motivation. When you make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, you remove the friction that gets in the way of your goals. Chapter 15. The cardinal rule of behavior change. in Chapter 15 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces us to the cardinal rule of behavior change, which is the simple but powerful idea that behaviors that are immediately satisfying are more likely to be repeated. This is an essential concept in habit formation because our brains are wired to repeat actions that feel good, and behaviors that are immediately rewarding are naturally reinforced. Clear explains that when a habit is satisfying in the moment, it creates a positive feedback loop that encourages us to continue doing it. For example, when you exercise and feel the endorphin rush afterward, it feels good, and that immediate reward reinforces the desire to continue exercising. The more we associate a behavior with instant satisfaction, the more likely we are to repeat it. Take a deep breath and think, what habits in your life feel satisfying right away? Perhaps you enjoy the feeling of crossing things off a to-do list or the calming effects of a morning meditation session. These immediate rewards help reinforce positive habits and make them easier to stick with. Clear emphasizes that the challenge with habits that have delayed rewards, like saving money or working out, is that the benefits don't appear immediately. The immediate satisfaction is missing, which makes it harder to stick with those habits. Over time, the trick is to find ways to make delayed rewards more immediate. For example, if you want to exercise more, find a way to make the workout enjoyable or rewarding in the moment, like listening to your favorite music or treating yourself to a post-workout smoothie. Let's pause and reflect. Are there habits in your life where the immediate reward is missing? Can you think of a way to add a satisfying, immediate reward to those behaviors to make them more enjoyable? By doing so, you'll be able to build a stronger positive association with the habit. Clear also explains the concept of habit tracking and how it can provide immediate satisfaction. Tracking your progress, whether it's with a calendar or a journal, gives you a visible, tangible reward every time you check something off. This helps create a sense of accomplishment, reinforcing the habit and making it easier to continue. Take a moment to think, what habit could you start tracking today? Could you keep a daily log of your progress or mark off days on a calendar? Habit tracking is a simple but effective tool to create immediate feedback and help you stay motivated. Chapter 16. How to make your habits stick in Chapter 16 of Atomic Habits. James Clear focuses on the strategies that help make our habits stick in the long run. The key message of this chapter is about building systems that support sustainable change, and Clear emphasizes that habit formation is not just about getting started, it's about making sure you continue. Clear explains that one of the main reasons habits fail is because we don't make them sustainable. If a habit is too difficult to maintain, or if it lacks consistency, we tend to give up. Instead of focusing solely on the goal, the key is to focus on building a set of behaviors that you can sustain for the long term. Take a deep breath and reflect. Are your habits built for long-term success? Perhaps you've started a new habit before, but it eventually faded away. What was missing? Clear suggests that the best way to ensure your habits stick is by making them simple, enjoyable, and aligned with your identity. One strategy Clear discusses is the idea of reinforcing habits by making them part of your routine. This can be done through habit stacking, pairing a new habit with an existing habit, making the new behavior feel natural and effortless. For example, after brushing your teeth, an established habit, you could immediately practice meditation for a few minutes, a new habit. The goal is to make the habit so easy that you don't need to think twice about it. Another idea Clear introduces is environment design. He reminds us that the easier we make it to engage in the habit, the more likely we are to stick with it. For instance, If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with healthy snacks and prepare meals in advance. If you want to exercise more, make your workout space inviting and easily accessible. By shaping your environment, you remove obstacles and make the habit more attractive and convenient. Let's pause and reflect. Are there any habits in your life that you have struggled to maintain? How can you adjust your routine or environment to make them easier to continue? Think about the steps you can take today to make your habits stick for the long term. Clear also highlights that patience is key in habit formation. Results don't appear overnight, and that's okay. The journey of habit building is a gradual process where small changes compound over time. By sticking with the process and celebrating the small wins, you create a foundation for lasting change. Take a moment to breathe deeply and remind yourself that every small step counts. Even on days when you don't feel motivated, your consistency is what will carry you forward. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about showing up every day and gradually improving. Chapter 17. The Goldilocks Rule. How to stay motivated in life and work in Chapter 17 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces us to the Goldilocks Rule, a concept that explains how to maintain motivation and keep pushing forward without burning out. The rule, inspired by the story of Goldilocks, tells us that we should always aim for tasks that are neither too easy nor too hard, but just the right level of difficulty. The Goldilocks rule is simple. The most motivated and productive people are those who are working on tasks that are just beyond their current abilities. They are challenging themselves, but not to the point of frustration. The key is to keep tasks within the sweet spot where they are difficult enough to keep you engaged, but not so difficult that you feel overwhelmed. Clear explains that when you're in the Goldilocks zone, you experience what's called optimal challenge, a feeling of flow where you're fully immersed in the task at hand. This is where motivation thrives, when you are doing something that requires skill and effort but is still achievable. Take a deep breath and reflect on your own life. What tasks or habits currently feel too easy? Are there any that are too difficult? The goal is to find a balance between the two tasks that stretch your abilities just enough to keep you engaged, but not so much that you lose confidence. James Clear also suggests that the Goldilocks rule helps you avoid burnout. When a task is too easy, you get bored, but when it's too hard, you risk exhaustion. By focusing on tasks that match your current level of skill, you avoid the frustration that often leads to giving up. It's about finding that sweet spot where you feel challenged but still capable. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. Are there any areas in your life where you are either under-challenged or over-challenged? Think about how you can adjust your approach to find the right balance. If something feels too easy, how can you make it a bit more challenging? If it's too difficult, what can you do to make it feel more achievable? Clear also mentions that consistent growth happens when you spend time working on things that push your skills to new heights. By continuously seeking that optimal challenge, you ensure that you're not only learning but also staying engaged and motivated. Now, take a deep breath and visualize yourself working within the Goldilocks zone. Picture yourself tackling a challenge that is slightly beyond your comfort zone but still achievable. How does it feel to be in that state of flow, where you're fully engaged and moving forward with purpose? Chapter 18. The Truth About Talent, When Genes Matter and When They Don't, in Chapter 18 of Atomic Habits. James Clear delves into a topic that many people wonder about: the role of talent in habit formation and success. He challenges the common belief that talent is the deciding factor in whether or not someone will succeed, showing us that while genetics may play a part, it's ultimately the habits you build that determine how far you go. Clear explains that genes do play a role in our abilities and predispositions, but they are not the only factor in determining success. In fact, talent can only take you so far. The real difference between high performers and those who struggle often comes down to the habits they practice consistently. Take a deep breath and think about this. When you look at people who seem incredibly talented athletes, musicians, writers, what sets them apart isn't just their natural abilities, it's their dedication to practicing the right habits. Day after day, talent may give them a head start, but it's their consistent effort that leads to mastery. James Clear also discusses the idea of deliberate practice, which is about pushing yourself to the edge of your ability, not simply repeating the same actions. This kind of practice is about focusing on improving small aspects of your performance and constantly challenging yourself to get better. Let's pause for a moment. How often do you push yourself outside of your comfort zone when building a new habit? True growth happens when you move beyond your existing skills and challenge yourself to get better, whether it's learning a new language, developing a fitness routine, or improving your focus at work. Clear emphasizes that the best way to build talent is by focusing on the habits and practices that lead to improvement over time. By doing this, you align your efforts with your natural abilities, and those abilities become more powerful. The key to success isn't just about being talented. It's about developing the right habits that maximize your potential. Take a moment to think. What is one area of your life where you feel you are struggling to progress? Could you focus on developing small, consistent habits that would allow you to improve, even if you don't feel like you have a natural talent for it? The truth is that success often comes from the compound effect of small, consistent efforts. Talent may give you an initial advantage, but habits turn talent into skill, and skill leads to long-term success. Chapter 19. The Goldilocks Rule: How to Stay Motivated in Life and Work in Chapter 19 of Atomic Habits. James Clear revisits the Goldilocks Rule, a powerful concept that helps you stay motivated and engaged as you work toward your goals. The Goldilocks Rule is all about finding the optimal level of challenge, not too easy, not too hard, but just the right balance that keeps you engaged, focused, and motivated. Clear explains that people are most motivated when they are working on tasks that are within their Goldilocks zone, tasks that are just beyond their current abilities, but not so difficult that they feel frustrated or overwhelmed. This is the sweet spot where motivation thrives, and it's where you can make the most progress without burning out. Take a deep breath and reflect. When was the last time you felt truly motivated? What were you working on, and how did it feel? Were you in your Goldilocks zone, facing a challenge that stretched your abilities without overwhelming you? Clear emphasizes that this state of optimal challenge is what fuels consistent effort and growth. By working on tasks that challenge you just enough, you tap into the natural flow of motivation. When a task feels too easy, you get bored. When it feels too hard, you give up. But when it's at the perfect level of challenge, you feel energized, focused, and ready to take on more. The Goldilocks Rule helps you find this balance in everything you do. Clear also discusses the importance of setting up feedback loops to stay on track. When you can see and measure your progress, you are more likely to stay motivated. Whether it's tracking your habits with a journal or using an app to monitor your progress, seeing tangible results along the way can keep you moving forward and make your work feel even more rewarding. Let's pause for a moment and think. What task or habit in your life feels too easy or too hard? How can you adjust it to bring it into your Goldilocks zone? Maybe you can increase the challenge slightly, or simplify it to make it more manageable. By finding this balance, you'll increase your motivation and keep moving forward with purpose. Remember, the key to staying motivated is finding that sweet spot where the challenge is just right, where the task feels like an exciting challenge rather than an impossible mountain to climb. When you can find your Goldilocks zone, motivation flows naturally and progress becomes a satisfying experience. Chapter 20, The Fourth Law. Make it satisfying. In Chapter 20 of Atomic Habits, James Clear presents the fourth law of behavior change. Make it satisfying. This law is about ensuring that your habits bring immediate rewards and feelings of satisfaction, which helps reinforce the habit and makes it easier to continue. Clear explains that we are naturally more likely to repeat behaviors that are immediately rewarding, because our brains are wired to associate actions that feel good with repeat behavior. This is why instant gratification can be so powerful in reinforcing positive habits. Take a deep breath and think about this. When you engage in a habit that feels satisfying, that it's completing a task, exercising, or even getting a small win, how does it make you feel? The feeling of accomplishment, the boost in your mood, or even the sense of relaxation after completing a habit are all ways in which the brain rewards you for your efforts. By making your habits immediately satisfying, you increase the chances that they will stick. Clear emphasizes that instant rewards are essential to making habits stick, because without them, we tend to lose motivation. For example, if you want to build the habit of exercising regularly, the immediate satisfaction could be the feeling of energy you have after a workout, or a positive mood boost from taking care of your body. The reward doesn't always have to be big, but it should be something that feels good in the moment. Let's pause and reflect. Can you think of a habit you've been trying to build that feels unsatisfying? Maybe the task feels too tedious, or you don't see results right away. How could you make it more satisfying? Perhaps by celebrating small wins or rewarding yourself with something you enjoy after completing the habit. Clear also introduces the concept of habit tracking as a way to make habits satisfying. When you track your habits, you create visible proof of your progress, which is a form of reward. Whether it's checking off a box on a calendar or marking a point on a chart, these small acts of tracking provide immediate satisfaction and create a sense of accomplishment. Think about a habit you want to develop. How can you make it more satisfying today? Could you reward yourself after completing the habit? Could you find a way to make the process itself more enjoyable or pleasurable? By making your habits more enjoyable, you increase your chances of sticking with them. Chapter 21. The importance of repeating small habits. In Chapter 21 of Atomic Habits, James Clear focuses on the importance of repetition and how the key to building lasting habits lies in the consistent repetition of small actions. While we often look for quick results, Clear reminds us that mastery and long-term success come from small, consistent actions over time. Clear explains that we often underestimate the power of small habits. It's easy to think that in order to make a big change, we need to take huge actions. But in reality, the small habits we repeat each day are the ones that compound into real transformation. The power of habits isn't in a single grand gesture, it's in the consistency and persistence of those small steps. Take a deep breath and think about this. What small habit have you been repeating consistently that's had a positive impact on your life? Maybe it's drinking a glass of water each morning, reading a few pages of a book, or walking for 10 minutes each day. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but when repeated day after day, they can lead to incredible growth. Clear encourages us to focus on the process, not the results. By doing this, we shift our attention from the outcome, which can take time to materialize, to the daily effort we put in. The real magic of habit formation happens not in the dramatic moments, but in the quiet, consistent efforts we make every single day. Let's pause and reflect. What is one small habit you've been repeating lately? How has it impacted your life, even if the results haven't been immediately noticeable? If you haven't yet developed a small habit that you repeat consistently, think about how you could start today with something simple that can grow into a lasting change. Clear also emphasizes that habits should be designed to be easy to repeat. The easier it is to perform a habit, the more likely you are to stick with it. He recommends starting small, ensuring the habit is simple enough to do regularly, and gradually increasing its difficulty over time as the habit becomes more ingrained. Now, take a moment to think. What is one habit that you could simplify today, making it easier to repeat? Perhaps it's putting your workout clothes on in the morning or committing to just 5 minutes of reading. Start with something small and simple and build from there. Chapter 22. The downside of creating new habits. In Chapter 22 of Atomic Habits, James Clear explores the downside of creating new habits, acknowledging that while habits can bring great benefits, they also come with challenges. Habits, when not carefully designed, can become automatic and lead to unintended consequences. This chapter invites us to reflect on how we create our habits and whether we are building the right ones. Clear explains that one of the challenges of habit formation is that we often focus on the outcomes we want to achieve, but we don't pay enough attention to the process itself. This can lead to habits that are hard to break, even when they no longer serve us or fit with our goals. The key is to ensure that the habits we create are aligned with our values and aspirations. Take a deep breath and think about this. Are there any habits in your life that have become automatic, but you no longer want them? Maybe it's scrolling endlessly on social media, eating junk food out of habit, or staying up late. These habits can be difficult to break because they've been reinforced over time, but they don't necessarily align with the life you want to create. James Clear highlights that breaking a bad habit isn't about simply getting rid of it. It's about replacing it with a good habit. If we don't replace an undesirable habit with something positive, we risk falling back into old patterns. The key to overcoming bad habits is to redirect our energy toward habits that better align with our values and goals. Let's pause and reflect. What are some habits in your life that you'd like to change? Can you think of a positive habit to replace them with? Perhaps, instead of reaching for your phone first thing in the morning, you could replace it with a healthy morning routine, like stretching or journaling. It's not about eliminating bad habits. It's about making space for better habits. Clear also mentions that the context and environment we create plays a significant role in forming habits. If our environment is filled with cues that trigger unwanted habits, we are more likely to fall back into those habits. On the other hand, by designing our environment in a way that supports our desired habits, we can make it easier to make the right choices. Take a moment and reflect. How does your current environment support or hinder the habits you want to build? Could you remove any cues that trigger your bad habits and replace them with cues for your desired habits? By making small adjustments to your environment, you can make the process of habit change much easier. Chapter 23. The Truth About Success. How to Achieve Your Goals in Chapter 23 of Atomic Habits. James Clear explores the truth about success and how to achieve our goals through the small, everyday habits we form. Clear explains that success is not about one big moment of achievement. It's about the cumulative effect of small habits and daily decisions that add up over time. Clear emphasizes that goals are the destination, but habits are the process that gets us there. The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't is not talent or luck, but the ability to focus on building systems that support their desired outcomes. Success comes from the daily actions that compound over time, not from a single moment of effort. Take a deep breath and reflect on your own goals. What is something you've been working toward for a long time? Whether it's improving your health, mastering a new skill, or advancing your career, think about the small actions you're taking every day that are helping you get closer to your goal. The key is to focus on the process, not just the outcome. James Clear introduces the idea that we should think of our goals not as fixed points to reach, but as systems to engage with. Instead of focusing on a specific result, we should focus on the habits that will help us become the person capable of achieving that result. This shift in perspective makes the process more enjoyable and sustainable. Let's pause and reflect. What goals have you been working on, and how can you focus on the systems that support them? Can you break your goal down into smaller, actionable steps and create habits that will lead to gradual progress? The journey of achieving your goals is built through consistency, not perfection. Clear also discusses the role of identity in success. He explains that the most powerful way to achieve your goals is to focus on the type of person you want to become, rather than on the specific goals themselves. For example, instead of setting a goal to lose weight, you can focus on becoming the type of person who values a healthy lifestyle. This identity-based approach shifts the focus from external achievements to internal transformation. Take a moment and think about this. Who do you want to become? How can you align your daily habits with the identity you aspire to have? By thinking about your goals in terms of who you are becoming, you create lasting, meaningful change that goes beyond the goal itself. Chapter 24. The Power of Environment. How to Shape Your Habits in Chapter 24 of Atomic Habits. James Clear explores the profound impact that our environment has on shaping our habits. He explains that we often think about willpower and motivation as the key drivers of behavior, but in reality, our environment plays a much stronger role in shaping our actions. Clear introduces the idea that our environment is a powerful trigger for our habits. The places we spend time in, the people we interact with, and the objects we surround ourselves with all influence the behaviors we engage in, often without us even realizing it. Take a deep breath and reflect on this. How does your environment influence your habits? Do the places where you spend time make it easier or harder to stick with your desired behaviors? For example, if you want to eat healthier, does your kitchen make it easy to prepare healthy meals, or does it tempt you with unhealthy snacks? Small changes to your environment can make a big difference in your ability to create lasting habits. James Clear emphasizes that one of the most effective ways to build good habits and break bad ones is to design your environment so that the right behaviors are triggered automatically. For instance, if you want to exercise more, make your workout clothes easily accessible and set up your gym space to be inviting. By making the desired behaviors easier to initiate, you reduce the friction and increase your chances of success. Clear also suggests that you should remove the cues that trigger bad habits. For example, if you want to reduce your screen time, place your phone in another room while working, or turn off notifications that distract you. By minimizing exposure to the triggers that lead to unwanted behaviors, you can create a space that encourages the habits you want to build. Let's pause for a moment. How can you design your environment to support the habits you want to create? Maybe it's arranging your workspace so it's easier to focus, or removing distractions that tempt you into old habits. The environment you create can make the process of habit formation much easier. Clear also talks about the concept of environmental cues, the subtle reminders in our surroundings that trigger certain behaviors. By strategically placing these cues, you can make it easier to stick with your habits. For example, placing a book on your pillow at night can remind you to read before bed, or putting a water bottle on your desk can encourage you to drink more water. Now, take a deep breath and think, what environmental cues could you use to remind you to engage in positive habits? How can you set up your surroundings to nudge you toward the behaviors that align with your goals? Chapter 25. The Secret to Lasting Change. The Importance of Identity in Chapter 25 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses a powerful concept, identity-based habits. He explains that the key to lasting change is not just about setting goals or focusing on the outcome. It's about changing who you believe you are. True habit formation comes when you start to see yourself as the type of person who engages in the desired behavior. Clear emphasizes that the most powerful form of motivation comes from identity. Rather than saying, "I want to lose weight," or "I want to exercise," it's more effective to say, "I am the type of person who prioritizes health and fitness." When you align your habits with your identity, the process becomes easier, because your actions naturally reflect the person you are becoming. Take a deep breath and reflect. What habits do you want to form, and what kind of person do you need to become in order to make those habits a natural part of your life? If you want to write every day, you might start by identifying as a writer. If you want to be healthier, you might see yourself as someone who makes choices that support their well-being. This shift in perspective moves the focus from the goal to the person you want to become. James Clear explains that identity change is the key to long-term transformation. When you change your identity, your habits follow. For instance, if you identify as a healthy person, you'll naturally make decisions that align with that identity, like eating nutritious foods or exercising regularly without needing to force yourself. Let's pause and reflect. Who do you want to become? What identity do you need to adopt to make your desired habits a part of who you are? Think about small shifts in your identity that can support your habits. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on the person you need to be to make it happen. Clear also highlights that identity-based habits require a shift from external motivation to internal belief. Instead of seeking validation or external rewards, you begin to derive satisfaction from aligning with the person you want to become. The actions you take no longer feel like obligations. They feel like reflections of your values and your sense of self. Now, take a moment and think. What small identity shifts can you make today to support the habits you want to build? Perhaps it's adopting the belief that you are someone who values self-care, or that you are someone who makes time for learning. When you align your identity with your goals, lasting change becomes much more attainable. Chapter 26. The Best Way to Start a Habit. The Power of First Habits in Chapter 26 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces the idea of first habits, small, initial steps that help you get started on a new habit. Clear emphasizes that the hardest part of building a new habit isn't the long-term commitment, it's simply starting. The power of first habits is in how they break the inertia of doing nothing and get the ball rolling. Clear explains that the first step you take toward a new habit is often the most important. Once you begin, even with a small action, you build momentum that makes it easier to continue. For example, if you want to start exercising, your first habit might be simply putting on your workout clothes. This small step reduces the mental friction and helps you move forward. Take a deep breath and reflect. What is one new habit you want to start? What is the smallest possible action you can take to get started? Instead of focusing on the entire process, start with something that's easy to do, but powerful enough to get you moving in the right direction. James Clear suggests that the easier you make it to start, the more likely you are to succeed. This is why first habits should be as simple as possible. Instead of committing to a full workout routine right away, start by putting your shoes on and stretching for a few minutes. The key is to start with the first step and then gradually increase your commitment over time. Let's pause and reflect. How can you break down a big habit into a small, manageable first step? What's one thing you can do today to start a habit you've been putting off? Whether it's reading one page, meditating for 2 minutes, or walking around the block, taking the first step is the key to getting started. Clear also discusses the importance of creating a momentum loop, where one small habit leads to another. When you successfully complete your first habit, no matter how small, it gives you a sense of accomplishment that makes it easier to take the next step. This is how habits compound over time, starting with small, manageable actions that lead to bigger, lasting changes. Now, take a moment and think. What first habit can you commit to today? How can you make it as easy as possible to begin? Remember, the first step is often the most important one. Once you've taken that small action, the rest will start to feel easier. Chapter 27, The 1% Rule, Why Small Habits Make a Big Difference in Chapter 27 of Atomic Habits, James Clear introduces the 1% rule, which emphasizes how small improvements made consistently can lead to huge results over time. Clear explains that many people overlook the power of small, incremental changes, believing that only major efforts will make a difference. However, the secret to long-term success lies in making small improvements each day, just 1% better each time. Clear argues that if you get 1% better every day, the compound effect over time will yield extraordinary results. Small habits, when repeated consistently, snowball into massive improvements. This is why small changes often lead to the biggest transformations. In fact, the smallest actions often set off a chain of positive events that amplify each other. Take a deep breath and think, what is one small habit you could improve by just 1%? Perhaps it's writing a few words every day, doing a quick workout, or choosing healthier snacks. These small actions might not seem significant in the moment, but when they compound over time, they lead to big results. The key is to focus on improving just a little bit each day. James Clear explains that the 1% rule applies not just to physical habits, but to mental, emotional, and personal growth. For example, if you aim to improve your focus, you can start by practicing mindfulness for just a few minutes a day, and over time, you'll see improvements in your ability to focus on tasks. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency and progress. Let's pause and reflect. How can you improve by just 1% today? What is one area of your life where you can make small improvements that will lead to bigger changes down the line? By focusing on incremental progress, you set yourself up for lasting transformation. Clear also highlights the importance of patience in the process. While the results from small improvements may not be immediately noticeable, trusting the process and staying consistent will pay off over time. The compound effect means that over the course of weeks, months, and years, those small changes will add up and lead to dramatic improvement. Now, take a moment to think about the small habits you want to build. How can you take the first step toward improving by just 1% today? Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about taking small, consistent actions that lead to meaningful results. Chapter 28. The Goldilocks Rule. The Power of Focus and Attention in Chapter 28 of Atomic Habits. James Clear revisits the Goldilocks Rule, which is central to maintaining motivation and focus in our habits. The core idea of the Goldilocks Rule is that our motivation is highest when we are working on tasks that are just the right level of difficulty, not too easy, not too hard. This chapter explores how focus and attention are the keys to staying in that sweet spot where we can perform at our best. Clear explains that to stay engaged and motivated in any task, we need to maintain focus on challenges that stretch our abilities but still feel achievable. The Goldilocks Rule suggests that our attention thrives when we tackle tasks that are difficult enough to push us, but not so overwhelming that we feel frustrated or defeated. Take a deep breath and think, what tasks or habits in your life do you find yourself losing focus on? Are you working on something that feels too easy and doesn't challenge you? Or is it too difficult, making it hard to get started? By tuning your efforts to match your level of ability, you can find the optimal challenge that will keep your motivation high and your progress steady. James Clear emphasizes that focus is a skill. It's not something we're born with, but something we can improve with practice. Staying focused on the right level of challenge is key to maintaining the flow state, where our work feels effortless and enjoyable. And just like any other skill, it takes time to build. The more we practice sustaining our attention on tasks that challenge us, the better we get at maintaining motivation and producing results. Let's pause for a moment. Think about a task or goal that requires your attention. How can you break it down into smaller, manageable steps that provide just the right level of challenge? Instead of aiming for perfection or getting overwhelmed by the bigger picture, focus on one small challenge at a time to maintain your momentum. Clear also suggests that focusing on the process rather than the result helps us stay motivated. When we measure our success by how much effort and focus we put into each task, rather than by the immediate outcome, we can sustain progress without losing sight of our long-term goals. Now, take a moment and reflect. How can you use focus to sustain your motivation and continue working on your goals? What small steps can you take today to keep your tasks within the Goldilocks zone, just challenging enough to keep you engaged and excited to continue? Chapter 29. The Power of Habit Stacking in Chapter 29 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces us to the concept of habit stacking, a simple and powerful strategy to help you build new habits more effectively. Habit stacking involves pairing a new habit with an existing one, creating a natural sequence of behaviors that makes it easier to follow through on new habits. Clear explains that habit stacking works because it links the new habit to a behavior you already do automatically. When you connect a new habit to something that's already established in your daily routine, it takes less mental energy and willpower to complete it. For example, if you already have the habit of brushing your teeth every morning, you can stack a new habit, such as stretching or practicing gratitude, immediately after you brush your teeth. Take a deep breath and think, what habits do you already do consistently every day? These are your anchor habits, the behaviors that you don't have to think about. Now, think about what small, positive habit you'd like to add to your routine. Can you find a way to stack it onto one of your existing habits? James Clear encourages us to start small with habit stacking, especially when building new habits. The more seamless the connection between the two habits, the easier it will be to follow through. For example, you could pair a new habit, like drinking a glass of water, with an already established habit, like making your morning coffee. The new habit becomes a natural extension of the behavior you're already doing, helping you stay consistent. Let's pause for a moment. How can you apply habit stacking to your own life? Think about the small habits you want to build and how you can link them to existing behaviors. The goal is to create a cue for your new habit from something that already triggers your routine, so the process feels natural and easy. Clear also emphasizes the importance of starting with a simple, easy to-do habit that can grow over time. When you stack a habit that is easy and quick to complete, it reinforces the habit-forming process without overwhelming you. Over time, as you repeat these small habits, they will naturally grow and expand. Now, take a moment and reflect. What habit can you stack into your routine today? How can you make it simple, easy, and connected to something you already do? By starting small and building momentum, habit stacking can help you create lasting change. Chapter 30. How to stay consistent with your habits. In Chapter 30 of Atomic Habits, James Clear dives into the crucial topic of consistency. He explains that the key to success is not just about starting habits, but about sticking with them. Over the long term, it's easy to be excited about a new habit in the beginning, but the challenge comes in maintaining that momentum and staying consistent, even when motivation wanes. Clear shares that consistency doesn't require perfection. It's about making sure you show up, even on days when you don't feel like it. The key is to focus on making your habits part of your identity, so they become things you simply do, not things you need to force yourself to do. For example, if you identify as a runner, it's easier to maintain the habit of running regularly because it's tied to who you are, not just to a goal you want to achieve. Take a deep breath and reflect. What habits in your life have you struggled to keep consistent? Are there any moments where you started strong but later found it difficult to continue? Clear suggests that the small wins are what keep us going. Instead of focusing on perfection, celebrate the fact that you showed up and did the work, even if it was just a little bit. The more you reinforce those small wins, the easier it becomes to stay consistent. James Clear also emphasizes that environment design plays a critical role in maintaining consistency. By designing your environment in a way that supports your habits, you can make it easier to stay consistent. For example, if you want to read more, place your book on your pillow each night so it's the first thing you see before bed. Small changes to your environment can reduce friction and increase the likelihood that you'll follow through. Let's pause and reflect. How can you set up your environment or routine to make it easier to stay consistent with your habits? Could you remove barriers that are preventing you from showing up, or add cues that encourage your desired behavior? Clear also talks about the idea of tracking your habits to build consistency. When you track your habits, you gain a sense of accomplishment and reinforce the behavior which motivates you to keep going. Habit tracking provides immediate feedback, making it easier to see how far you've come and reminding you of the progress you've made. Now, take a moment and think, what is one habit you want to stay consistent with? How can you make the process easier and more rewarding? Remember, consistency doesn't require perfection, just the commitment to show up every day, even on the tough days. Chapter 31. The Power of Environment. Shaping Your Space for Success. In Chapter 31 of Atomic Habits, James Clear explores how our environment is one of the most powerful factors that shape our habits. He explains that environment design can make or break our ability to build lasting habits. Whether we're aware of it or not, our environment constantly influences our behaviors. By intentionally designing our surroundings, we can make it easier to engage in the habits we want to build and harder to engage in the habits we want to break. Clear emphasizes that the environment we create doesn't just affect the habits we engage in, it also influences our mental state and our decision-making process. A well-designed environment makes good habits feel easy, natural, and automatic. For instance, if you want to eat healthier, keeping nutritious food visible and easily accessible will encourage you to make healthier choices, while keeping junk food hidden or out of reach reduces temptation. Take a deep breath and reflect. How does your environment currently support or hinder the habits you're trying to build? Is your workspace organized and conducive to focus, or is it cluttered and distracting? Do you have healthy snacks readily available, or are unhealthy options more convenient? The more you design your environment to encourage the habits you want to create, the more effortless it becomes to follow through. James Clear also discusses the importance of habit cues in our environment. By adding cues for the behavior you want to engage in, you make it easier to remember to perform the habit. For example, if you want to read more, place a book by your bedside table as a visual cue that encourages you to read before bed. These small changes in your environment can help nudge you toward your desired behavior, making the habit feel more natural and automatic. Let's pause and reflect. How can you design your environment to make your desired habits easier to do? Maybe you can remove distractions from your workspace or place helpful reminders throughout your home. A small change in your environment might be all it takes to make a big difference in your ability to stick with your habits. Clear also emphasizes that environmental design is not about creating a perfect space, but about creating a space that supports your goals. It's about setting up your environment in a way that nudges you toward the behavior you want to repeat. By adjusting your surroundings to make it easier to engage in your desired habits, you align your environment with your intentions, increasing your chances of success. Now, take a moment to think. What are 3 small changes you can make in your environment today to better support your habits? Whether it's setting up a workout space, organizing your desk, or making healthy foods more accessible, small tweaks to your environment can make a significant impact. Chapter 32. How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. In Chapter 32 of Atomic Habits, James Clear breaks down the process of building better habits into 4 simple steps. These steps serve as a clear framework to help you successfully build and sustain positive habits. The process is both simple and profound, offering a roadmap for habit formation that anyone can follow. Clear's 4 steps are based on a proven method known as the habit loop, which consists of cue, craving, response, and reward. This framework helps us understand how habits are formed and how we can influence them in our favor. The first step in building a better habit is the cue, the trigger that sets the habit into motion. Cues can be internal, like a feeling or emotion, or external, like an event or a location. For example, seeing your gym shoes by the door might serve as a cue. To start your workout, to build better habits, it's essential to identify the cues that will trigger your new behavior. Take a deep breath and reflect. What cues can you set up in your environment to remind you to perform your desired habits? Maybe it's placing your water bottle on your desk to remind you to stay hydrated, or setting an alarm to prompt you to take a break and stretch. The key is to make the cue obvious and easy to spot, creating a strong trigger for your habit. The second step is craving the desire or motivation to perform the behavior. The craving is what drives you to take action. Clear suggests that you can make habits more attractive by associating them with something you enjoy. For example, listening to your favorite podcast while exercising makes the workout more enjoyable, which increases your desire to repeat it. Let's pause and reflect. How can you make your new habit more attractive? Could you pair it with something you enjoy or find a way to make it more fun? The more rewarding the craving, the more likely you are to stick with it. The third step is the response to actual behavior or action you take. This is where the habit is performed. Clear explains that to make habits easier to do, you should focus on reducing friction. The more effort required to perform a habit, the less likely you are to follow through. So, make your habits easy to start and maintain. Think about this. How can you make your habit easier to perform? Maybe you can start with a small, manageable version of the habit, like doing 5 minutes of exercise instead of an hour. As you build consistency, you can gradually increase the difficulty. The final step is reward the positive feeling or outcome you experience after completing the habit. Rewards reinforce the habit loop, making it more likely that you'll repeat the behavior in the future. Clear emphasizes the importance of immediate rewards. When we see the benefits of a habit right away, we are more likely to continue doing it. Take a moment and reflect. What immediate rewards can you give yourself after completing a habit? Maybe it's a small treat, a sense of accomplishment, or the pleasure of checking off your habit tracker. The reward helps reinforce the habit and motivates you to keep going. Chapter 33. The role of reflection and review in habit formation. In Chapter 33 of Atomic Habits, James Clear emphasizes the importance of reflection and review in the process of habit formation. He explains that while the act of building habits is important, the key to maintaining and improving them over time lies in our ability to reflect on our progress and review our behaviors regularly. Clear shares that reflection allows us to take a step back and assess how we're doing with our habits. It gives us the opportunity to identify what's working, what's not, and where we can improve. Regular reviews also help us stay connected to our goals and adjust our strategies as needed. Take a deep breath and reflect. How often do you take the time to review your progress? Have you been celebrating your small wins or identifying areas where you could improve? Regular reflection is a powerful tool because it allows us to course correct and stay on track. James Clear suggests that setting aside time each week to reflect on your habits can help you stay aligned with your goals. You can ask yourself questions like, what went well this week? What could I have done better? What obstacles did I face? These questions help you gain valuable insights into your habits and create opportunities for growth. Let's pause for a moment. When was the last time you reviewed your habits and your progress toward your goals? Taking time to reflect doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. It can be as simple as spending 5 minutes at the end of each week to assess your progress and make adjustments. Clear also emphasizes that consistency is key. It's not enough to reflect once and move on. The real benefit comes from making reflection and review a regular part of your routine. By creating a habit of reviewing your progress, you maintain the momentum of your habits and ensure that you're consistently improving. Now, take a moment and think about how you can integrate regular reflection into your routine. Can you set aside time at the end of each week to review your progress? How can you ensure that reflection becomes a regular practice in your life? Chapter 34. The Power of Habits in Creating Lasting Change. In Chapter 34 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses the transformative power of habits in creating lasting change. He emphasizes that small habits, repeated consistently over time, are the true drivers of personal transformation. While many people focus on dramatic one-time efforts, it's the compound effect of small, consistent actions that leads to sustainable change. Clear explains that the key to lasting change is not in a singular act of willpower or motivation, but in making habits a permanent part of your daily life. Change happens when you focus on the process, not just the result. By building habits that align with the person you want to become, you create a system of progress that works even when motivation fades. Take a deep breath and reflect. What small habit, when repeated consistently, could create the biggest change in your life? Maybe it's waking up 15 minutes earlier each day, making time for a morning stretch, or reading a few pages of a book every evening. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but when compounded over time, they lead to incredible results. James Clear reminds us that lasting change comes from focusing on identity-based habits. Instead of setting goals based on what you want to achieve, focus on the person you want to become. For example, instead of setting a goal to lose weight, shift your focus to becoming someone who values their health and makes mindful eating choices. By aligning your habits with your desired identity, you create a sense of purpose that makes it easier to stick with the process. Let's pause for a moment. How can you shift your focus from external outcomes to internal growth? What identity can you adopt that will help you stick with your habits and make lasting changes in your life? Clear also emphasizes that systems are more important than goals. Systems are the daily habits and routines that move you toward your goal, whereas goals are the end result you want to achieve. To build lasting change, you need to focus on creating systems that support your goals, small habits that align with your desired outcome and bring you closer to the person you want to become. Think about this. What small system can you create today that will help you move toward your larger goal? Perhaps it's creating a habit of tracking your progress, setting up a consistent routine, or using positive reinforcement to reward yourself for sticking with your habits. These systems are the backbone of lasting change. Chapter 35. The Secret to Building Better Habits. The 2-minute rule in Chapter 35 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces the 2-minute rule, a powerful strategy to help you start new habits. The essence of this rule is simple. Make your new habit so easy that it takes only 2 minutes to complete. By starting small, you reduce the friction that often makes habits feel difficult to begin, which increases the likelihood of long-term success. Clear explains that the 2-minute rule is not about the habit itself, but about making the first step so simple and easy that you can't say no. For example, if your goal is to read more, start by reading 1 page. If you want to exercise more, start by doing 2 minutes of stretching or a few push-ups. The key is to make the initial step so easy that you can't avoid doing it. Take a deep breath and reflect. What is one habit you've been wanting to build but have struggled to start? Can you break it down into a 2-minute version? For example, if you want to meditate, start with 2 minutes of quiet breathing. If you want to write, start with writing just 1 sentence. By focusing on the smallest, easiest version of your habit, you eliminate the barriers to starting. James Clear emphasizes that the 2-minute rule is about building the momentum to continue. While the first 2 minutes may seem like a small effort, they create a foundation that can easily grow over time. Once you've started, you're more likely to continue because you've already overcome the hardest part, getting started. Let's pause for a moment. How can you apply the 2-minute rule to your own habits? Think about a habit you've been procrastinating on and break it down into the smallest, simplest action. By making the first step incredibly easy, you'll create the momentum you need to continue building on it. Clear also points out that this rule helps you overcome the habit plateau, that period when motivation fades and it feels difficult to continue. The 2-minute rule reminds you that consistency doesn't require a perfect effort, just a small, easy step forward. It's the act of starting that matters most. Now, take a moment and reflect. What 2-minute action can you commit to today? Start small and focus on the process. The key is to take the first step, and once you've done that, it will be easier to continue. Chapter 36. Advanced Tactics. How to go from being merely good to being truly great in Chapter 36 of Atomic Habits. James Clear explores advanced tactics that can take your habit building to the next level, while earlier chapters focused on the basics of habit formation. This chapter digs deeper into the techniques and strategies that can help you go from being merely good to achieving greatness. Clear emphasizes that the key to truly mastering a skill or habit lies in deliberate practice, not just repetition, but a focused effort to improve and challenge yourself. It's about taking your current habits and pushing them to the edge of your capabilities, always striving for better performance, greater mastery, and deeper understanding. Take a deep breath and reflect. What skill or habit in your life do you want to improve upon? Where do you feel like you're just scratching the surface? To go from good to great, you need to push yourself beyond your comfort zone and embrace deliberate practice. This means focusing on your weaknesses, seeking constant feedback, and making small improvements each time. James Clear also discusses the concept of refining your habits to a higher level. As you gain competence, it's important to gradually increase the challenge to continue growing. Whether it's setting new goals, refining your technique, or adding more complexity to your habits, the idea is to keep raising the bar for yourself. The journey from good to great isn't about doing more, it's about doing better. Let's pause and reflect. How can you refine your habits to challenge yourself further? Maybe it's setting more specific goals, seeking feedback, or tracking your progress in a new way. Growth happens when we get out of our comfort zone and take our habits to the next level. Clear also touches on the importance of mastery and how it's achieved through patience and perseverance. Mastery takes time, and while it may not be immediately visible, it compounds over the long term. The more you invest in refining your habits and techniques, the more profound your results will be. It's not about being perfect, it's about committing to continuous improvement. Think about this. What is one area of your life where you can challenge yourself to grow? How can you make deliberate efforts to improve and refine your skills, habits, or routines. By focusing on improvement, not perfection, you set yourself up for long-term success. Chapter 37. The Power of Compounding. How small habits add up over time in Chapter 37 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses the incredible power of compounding and how small habits, when practiced consistently, can lead to massive results. Over time, Claire explains that just as money compounds with interest, our habits compound through small, incremental changes that accumulate and create a snowball effect of progress. Clear highlights that many people fail to see the impact of their habits because they expect immediate results. However, the true power of habits lies in their compounding effect. Small actions, repeated daily, may not seem significant at first, but they gradually build momentum and lead to exponential growth. Over time, these habits will compound in ways that you can't always predict. Take a deep breath and reflect. What small habit have you been practicing consistently that's starting to compound? Perhaps it's reading a few pages each day, saving a small amount of money each week, or exercising for just 10 minutes. While these actions may seem small, over time, their cumulative effect can lead to significant transformation. James Clear also reminds us that compounding is not just about progress, but about momentum. The more you commit to small actions, the easier it becomes to stay consistent, and the more powerful the results. The key is to stay patient and trust in the process, knowing that the compound effect will work in your favor. Let's pause for a moment. How can you apply the power of compounding to your own life? What small habits can you commit to today that, over time, will lead to substantial growth? The key is to start small, stay consistent, and allow the compounding effect to work its magic. Clear also explains that delayed gratification plays a significant role in compounding. While the results of small habits may not be immediately visible, they will pay off in the long run. This is why consistency is so important, staying committed to small actions, even when you don't see immediate rewards, is what ultimately leads to lasting change. Think about this. What habits do you need to stay consistent with, knowing that the rewards will come over time? Can you commit to staying patient, even when results aren't immediately apparent? By sticking with your habits and allowing the compounding effect to take place, you'll begin to see how powerful small actions can truly be. Chapter 38. The Power of Habit Mastery. How to make habits stick. In Chapter 38 of Atomic Habits, James Clear delves into the concept of habit mastery, which is all about learning how to make your habits stick over the long term, while building habits is important. Ensuring that they remain a permanent part of your routine is where true success lies. Clear discusses strategies for mastering habits and how to embed them into your life so that they feel effortless and automatic. Clear emphasizes that habit mastery is not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. True mastery of a habit is not about doing it flawlessly every time, but about showing up consistently, even when motivation fades. He explains that success comes from the repetition of small actions that build over time, leading to a deeply ingrained routine. Take a deep breath and reflect. What habit do you want to master? Is it something you've been working on for a while but haven't quite made permanent? Think about what might be standing in the way of consistency. Perhaps it's the pressure to be perfect, or the lack of clear systems to keep you on track. Habit mastery is about showing up, no matter what, and making progress even on days when you don't feel like it. James Clear also introduces the idea that tracking your habits is a powerful tool for mastering them. By tracking your progress, you can build visible proof of your efforts, which motivates you to stay on course. Habit trackers can serve as a reminder of how far you've come, reinforcing your commitment to the habit. The act of marking progress, even in small increments, can make a big difference in sustaining long-term habits. Let's pause for a moment. How can you create a system of tracking your habits to help you stay on track? Whether it's using a habit tracker app, a journal, or a simple calendar, the act of monitoring your progress can keep you motivated and help make the habit stick. Clear also emphasizes the importance of identity-based habits for achieving mastery. When your habit becomes part of your identity, it becomes far easier to stick with. If you see yourself as a healthy person, exercising regularly becomes a natural part of who you are. By aligning your habits with your identity, you strengthen your commitment to them and make them feel effortless. Think about this. How can you begin to view the habits you're working on as part of your identity? Perhaps you can shift your mindset from saying, "I want to exercise more," to "I am a person who values health." By incorporating habits into your identity, you make them a natural part of your daily life. Chapter 39. The Power of Accountability. How to Stay on Track. In Chapter 39 of Atomic Habits, James Clear highlights the powerful role that accountability plays in helping us stay on track with our habits. Clear emphasizes that when we are held accountable, we are more likely to follow through and stay consistent. Accountability partners or groups can provide the motivation and support we need to stick with our habits, especially on days when our willpower is low. Clear explains that external accountability is a powerful tool because it adds an extra layer of commitment. Knowing that someone else is relying on you or tracking your progress can make you less likely to skip a habit. This is why many people find success when they partner up with a friend, coach, or join a community with similar goals. Take a deep breath and reflect. How can accountability help you stay committed to your habits? Think about a time when you've had someone check in on your progress. How did it feel to have someone else invested in your success? Could you reach out to someone to help hold you accountable for your goals? James Clear also emphasizes that accountability doesn't always have to come from another person. You can create systems of self-accountability, like tracking your habits, setting deadlines, or using rewards and punishments to reinforce your commitment. The goal is to make yourself answerable for your progress and ensure that you're staying on track, even when no one else is watching. Let's pause for a moment. How can you set up a system of accountability for your habits? Perhaps it's through a habit tracker, or by sharing your progress with a friend. You might even set up regular check-ins or create personal consequences for missing a habit. Clear also talks about the power of public commitment, where announcing your goals or intentions to others can increase your sense of accountability. This public declaration makes you more likely to follow through because you don't want to disappoint others or let them down. Think about this. What goal could you share publicly to increase your accountability? Perhaps you could post about your goals on social media, share them with a group of friends, or tell your family about your commitment. By making your intentions visible, you strengthen your commitment to following through. Chapter 40. How to Review and Improve Your Habits. In Chapter 40 of Atomic Habits, James Clear focuses on the importance of regularly reviewing your habits and reflecting on how you can improve them. Clear explains that habit formation is not a one-time event, but a continuous process of experimentation, evaluation, and adaptation. To ensure long-term success, it's essential to periodically assess your progress and make adjustments where necessary. Clear suggests that by making habit review a routine, you can stay on track and ensure that your habits are still aligned with your goals and values. This process allows you to identify areas for improvement and refine your strategies for better results. It's not about being perfect. It's about making small tweaks that improve the overall process. Take a deep breath and reflect. How often do you review your habits? Have you taken the time to step back and assess whether your habits are moving you closer to your goals? Regular reflection helps you stay aware of how your habits are influencing your life, and it allows you to adjust when things aren't working. James Clear recommends asking yourself a few key questions when reviewing your habits. What's working well? What's not working? What can I improve or tweak? These questions guide you to identify the habits that are helping you progress, and the ones that may need to be modified or replaced. By regularly checking in, you can stay focused and keep improving. Let's pause for a moment. How can you start incorporating regular habit reviews into your routine? Maybe you can set aside a few minutes at the end of each week to reflect on your habits and progress. By making review a part of your regular routine, you increase the chances of long-term success. Clear also discusses the importance of feedback loops in habit formation. By tracking your progress, you get real-time feedback on what's working and what's not. This feedback helps you make informed decisions about how to adjust your habits for better outcomes. It's about staying flexible and willing to make changes as needed. Think about this. What feedback could you gather to improve your habits? Could you track your habits in a journal or use a habit tracking app to monitor your progress? Getting feedback from yourself or others can help you stay on track and continue to improve. Chapter 41. The Power of Patience. How to stay committed to your habits. In Chapter 41 of Atomic Habits, James Clear emphasizes the crucial role of patience in building lasting habits. Clear explains that long-term success is not achieved by quick wins or instant results, but through consistent, persistent effort over time. Patience is the hidden ingredient that allows habits to become deeply ingrained in our lives and lead to lasting transformation. Clear reminds us that, especially in the early stages of habit formation, results may not be immediately visible. In fact, you may feel as if you're not making any progress at all. However, small changes accumulate over time, and the effects of your efforts will eventually show. The key is to stay committed, even when the rewards aren't visible yet. Take a deep breath and reflect. How often have you felt frustrated or impatient because you didn't see immediate results from your efforts? Patience is about trusting the process and understanding that lasting change takes time. Each small effort you make, no matter how insignificant it seems in the moment, is contributing to your long-term success. James Clear discusses how compound growth works, and that the effects of habits often don't become noticeable until after a period of time. At first, progress may seem slow, but once your habits compound, the results are exponential. The key is to stay focused on the process and trust that your efforts will eventually pay off. Let's pause for a moment. How can you practice patience with your own habits? Maybe it's reminding yourself that the work you're doing now will add up over time, even if you don't see immediate changes. Consistency is what leads to real, lasting transformation, and patience is the key to staying on track. Clear also highlights that we often overestimate what we can accomplish in the short term and underestimate what we can achieve in the long term. This is why patience is so important. It allows you to stay committed to the process and keep moving forward, even when you don't see immediate results. By focusing on the long-term rewards, you set yourself up for sustainable success. Think. About this, what long-term habits do you want to stick with, and how can you practice patience as you continue to build them? Remember, lasting change isn't about rushing or pushing for quick results. It's about trusting that your consistent efforts will bring the transformation you desire. Chapter 42. The Importance of Adaptation. How to Evolve Your Habits. In Chapter 42 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses the importance of adaptation in the process of habit formation. He explains that as we grow and change, our habits must evolve with us. The key to maintaining and improving our habits is not to be rigid, but to adapt and adjust them to fit our current needs and goals. Clear emphasizes that habits should not be static. As you progress in your journey, the same habits that worked for you in the beginning may need to be adjusted or refined. This is especially true when you reach new milestones or when your environment changes. The ability to adapt your habits to your new circumstances is crucial for long-term success. Take a deep breath and reflect. Are there any habits in your life that need to be adapted or refined? Perhaps some habits no longer align with your goals, or maybe you're facing new challenges that require different approaches. Adaptation is about staying flexible and adjusting your habits to reflect your evolving identity and circumstances. James Clear also highlights the concept of habit stacking and how you can use adaptation to enhance existing habits. As your life changes, you can add new habits to your routine by stacking them onto your current habits, creating an evolving system that supports your growth. By continually adapting and adding to your habits, you create a dynamic system that evolves with you. Let's pause for a moment. How can you start adapting your habits to match where you are now in your journey? Think about your goals and how your current habits are helping or hindering your progress. The goal is to keep evolving and adjusting your habits so they continue to serve your growth. Clear also discusses the role of feedback loops in adaptation. By constantly reviewing your progress and getting feedback, you can identify areas where your habits need adjustment. This continuous feedback helps you fine-tune your habits, ensuring they remain aligned with your goals and values. Now, take a moment to think, what feedback can you gather to help you adapt your habits? Could you track your progress more closely, seek feedback from others, or reflect on your goals to determine if your habits are still serving you? The ability to adapt your habits in response to feedback is a powerful way to continue growing. Chapter 43. The Power of Small Habits. How tiny changes lead to big results in Chapter 43 of Atomic Habits. James Clear underscores the power of small habits and how tiny changes can lead to profound results over time. He explains that many people overlook the impact of small habits, often believing that significant results require major changes. However, the true secret to long-term success lies in making small, consistent improvements. Clear emphasizes that small habits, repeated consistently, compound over time. Just like small deposits in a savings account eventually lead to large amounts of money, small actions, done consistently, lead to significant outcomes. These small habits might seem insignificant in the moment, but when you stack them over time, they create a massive difference. Take a deep breath and reflect. What small habit could you start today that, if repeated, could lead to a significant change over time? Perhaps it's reading just 1 page a day, drinking a glass of water every morning, or writing a single sentence in a journal. These tiny habits might not seem like much, but they can grow into powerful, life-changing routines. James Clear also discusses the idea that small habits can unlock big transformations. For example, starting with a simple 10-minute workout can gradually evolve into a daily exercise routine. Similarly, setting aside just 5 minutes for focused work each day can build into hours of productive work over time. Small habits don't just lead to bigger habits, they transform your identity as well. Let's pause and reflect. What small habit could you introduce into your life today that would make a big difference in the future? How can you break down your goals into small, manageable actions? The key is to start small and stay consistent, trusting that these small habits will eventually lead to big results. Clear also highlights the power of consistency in habit formation. It's not about making drastic changes all at once. It's about making small changes consistently. Over time, these small actions add up and compound into a transformation. The goal is to keep showing up, no matter how small the action, and let the consistency do the work. Think about this. What small action can you take today that will set the stage for bigger changes? Remember, it's the small habits done consistently that create the biggest shifts. Every tiny step is a part of your journey toward meaningful, lasting change. Chapter 44. The Power of Habit Identity. Becoming the person you want to be in Chapter 44 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces the concept of habit identity, the idea that the most effective way to change your habits is to focus on the person you want to become, rather than just the habits themselves. Clear argues that identity-based habits are more powerful than goal-based habits because they help you align your actions with the kind of person you want to be. Clear explains that rather than saying, "I want to read more books," you should say, "I am a reader," instead of focusing on the habit itself. Shift your mindset to identify as the kind of person who embodies the behavior. This mindset makes it easier to stick to your habits because they're now aligned with your sense of self. Take a deep breath and reflect. How can you align your habits with the person you want to become? Perhaps instead of focusing on exercising more, you could start by seeing yourself as an active, healthy person. Instead of aiming to save money, see yourself as a financially responsible person. By changing your identity, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. James Clear emphasizes that identity-based habits help us make decisions based on who we believe ourselves to be. When we identify with a habit, we don't need to motivate ourselves to do it. It becomes automatic because it's simply what we do. When you think of yourself as a runner, for example, running becomes part of your identity, not just something you do. Let's pause for a moment. What habits do you want to adopt that align with the person you want to become? By thinking about your identity first, you can transform your habits from something you should do into something that feels natural and aligned with your true self. Clear also highlights that small changes in your identity can lead to dramatic shifts in your behavior. If you decide to start identifying as a healthy eater, for example, you're more likely to make choices that align with that identity. It's about shifting the focus from short-term results to long-term identity. And over time, this leads to sustainable habits. Think about this. What small action can you take today to start reinforcing the identity you want to embody? Whether it's reading for a few minutes every day, making healthier choices, or practicing mindfulness. Each small step brings you closer to becoming the person you want to be. Chapter 45. The Habit of Success. How to make habits work for you in Chapter 45 of Atomic Habits. James Clear dives deep into the habit of success and how building the right habits can set you on the path to achieving your goals. Clear discusses that success is not about one big leap, but rather a series of small, consistent actions. The success of your habits is not just in their completion, but in how they align with your long-term goals. Clear explains that the key to making habits work for you is understanding that successful habits are built over time through consistency. Success is not about working hard for a short burst of time. It's about focusing on the habits that align with your ultimate vision for yourself. Whether it's mastering a skill, growing your career, or building meaningful relationships, success is always linked to the small, daily habits you cultivate. Take a deep breath and reflect. How are your current habits contributing to your long-term success? Are they moving you toward your goals, or do they need adjustment? The success of your habits lies not in how much effort you put in, but in the consistency and alignment of your actions. Small habits, when repeated, create a foundation for lasting achievement. James Clear emphasizes that success is a system, not a goal. This means that, instead of focusing on the outcome such as becoming successful, you focus on the process that leads to success. Success doesn't happen when you achieve the goal. It happens when you adopt the systems that make the goal achievable in the first place. Let's pause for a moment. What systems can you put in place today that will lead to your long-term success? Think about the habits that contribute to your ultimate vision of success. These habits are the small yet powerful actions that will help you achieve your goals, even when you're not actively thinking about them. Clear also highlights the importance of evaluating your progress to ensure that your habits are leading you in the right direction. The path to success is not always linear, and sometimes it's necessary to adjust your habits or strategies to stay aligned with your goals. Periodic reviews of your progress and habits ensure that you are consistently moving forward and making necessary adjustments. Now, take a moment to think. What habits can you refine or improve to make them more aligned with your goals? Remember, success isn't a singular event, but a process built on consistent, aligned habits that reinforce your vision. By focusing on these daily actions, you can set yourself up for sustained success. Chapter 46. The Goldilocks Principle. How to stay motivated in Chapter 46 of Atomic Habits. James Clear introduces us to the Goldilocks Principle, a key concept for maintaining motivation and consistency in your habits. The Goldilocks Principle is simple. Your tasks should be just the right level of difficulty, not too easy and not too hard. When your challenges lie in this sweet spot, motivation increases, and the process becomes both engaging and enjoyable. Clear explains that when we face tasks that are too easy, we get bored and lose interest. Conversely, when tasks are too difficult, we become frustrated and give up. The goal is to find the perfect balance, where the task is challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not overwhelming. Take a deep breath and reflect. How often do you find yourself in a state where your habits are either too easy or too challenging? If your habits don't challenge you enough, you might feel bored or stagnant. If they're too difficult, you might feel overwhelmed. Think about a habit or task you're currently working on. Could you adjust the challenge to make it more aligned with your current abilities and motivation? James Clear encourages us to adjust our habits and goals to stay within this Goldilocks zone. For example, if your goal is to run more instead of jumping straight into a 10-mile run, try starting with 1 mile and then gradually increase the distance as your stamina improves. The key is gradual progress, not perfection. Let's pause for a moment. How can you apply the Goldilocks Principle to your habits today? What changes can you make to keep your habits challenging but still attainable? It's important to find the balance between challenge and comfort to keep your motivation levels high and your progress steady. Clear also emphasizes that progress is a key driver of motivation. When we see that we are improving, we are more likely to stick with the habit. Therefore, by finding the right level of challenge, we create the perfect environment for growth. It's this combination of challenge and progress that keeps us motivated. Think about this. What tasks or habits could you break down into smaller, manageable challenges that still push you to improve? How can you use the Goldilocks principle to stay in your zone of optimal challenge and maintain your motivation over time? Chapter 47. The Power of Habit Reflection. How to improve your habits for the long term in Chapter 47 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses the transformative role of habit reflection in ensuring that your habits remain aligned with your long-term goals. Clear emphasizes that in order to truly improve and sustain your habits, it's essential to regularly reflect on them. Habit reflection is not about being critical of your habits, but about evaluating them with the intention of making adjustments and improvements over time. Clear explains that reflection helps you take a step back and assess your habits' effectiveness. Instead of blindly following routines, reflection allows you to ask the question, is this habit still serving my goals? Does it align with the person I want to become? Reflection ensures that your habits continue to evolve with you, preventing them from becoming stale or misaligned with your aspirations. Take a deep breath and reflect. How often do you take time to reflect on your habits? Do you evaluate them regularly, or do you only assess them when something goes wrong? Regular reflection helps you stay on course and avoid the trap of mindlessly going through the motions. James Clear also highlights the importance of making small adjustments through reflection. Habits that worked well in the past may need refinement as your circumstances and goals change. Reflection provides the opportunity to notice what's working, what's not, and what might need a slight tweak to keep you moving forward. Let's pause for a moment. How can you begin incorporating regular reflection into your routine? Perhaps you can set aside a few minutes at the end of each week to reflect on the habits you've been working on. Ask yourself, what's been going well? Where can I improve? Small tweaks from reflection can create lasting changes in your habits. Clear also encourages us to track our habits as part of the reflection process. Habit tracking gives you tangible evidence of your progress, helping you visualize the results of your efforts. When you can see the impact of your habits, it becomes easier to stay motivated and make adjustments as needed. Think about this. How could you incorporate habit tracking into your life to improve your reflection process? Maybe it's as simple as using a journal or a habit tracking app. By tracking your habits, you make it easier to see where you're excelling and where you might need to adapt. Chapter 48. The Power of Habit Networks. How to leverage social influence in Chapter 48 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses the role of social influence in shaping our habits and how we can leverage the power of habit networks to reinforce positive behaviors. Clear explains that our environment, especially the people around us, has a profound impact on our habits. The people we interact with regularly can either strengthen or undermine our efforts to build lasting habits. Clear emphasizes that social networks are incredibly powerful in shaping our behavior because we are influenced by the actions and habits of those around us. Whether we realize it or not, our friends, family, co-workers, and communities play a significant role in the habits we adopt. By surrounding ourselves with people who support our goals and embody the behaviors we want to adopt, we can make our desired habits easier to maintain. Take a deep breath and reflect. How do the people in your life influence your habits? Are they supporting your goals, or are they leading you down a different path? Think about the habits you want to reinforce. Could surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals help you stay on track? James Clear suggests that the key to leveraging social influence is to find or create a community that shares your values and goals. This community doesn't have to be large. It can be a small group of friends, a workout buddy, or a support group. By joining a group that holds you accountable, you make it easier to stick to your habits because the group's habits become part of your own. Let's pause for a moment. How can you leverage social influence to reinforce your habits? Perhaps you can find a group of people who share your passion for fitness, reading, or healthy living. By making your habits social, you tap into the power of accountability and support. Clear also emphasizes that habits are contagious. We are naturally inclined to imitate the behaviors of those around us, which means that both positive and negative habits can spread through our social networks. By aligning ourselves with people who demonstrate the behaviors we want to adopt, we increase our chances of success. Think about this. Who in your social network exemplifies the habits you want to adopt? Can you engage more with those individuals, or even seek out new relationships that inspire positive habits? By consciously choosing who you spend your time with, you can create a habit network that supports your goals. Chapter 49. The Role of Environment Design in Habit Formation. In Chapter 49 of Atomic Habits, James Clear emphasizes the powerful impact that environment design has on the habits we form. He explains that our environment is one of the most influential factors when it comes to shaping our behavior. The spaces we occupy and the cues around us can either encourage or discourage the habits we want to build. Clear explains that environment design is the act of consciously arranging your surroundings to support your goals. By intentionally shaping your environment, you make it easier to practice good habits and harder to fall into bad ones. It's about setting up your spaces in a way that automatically nudges you toward the behaviors you want to repeat. Take a deep breath and reflect. How can you design your environment to support the habits you want to build? Think about your workspace, your home, and even your phone. Are there any changes you can make to your environment that will help make your desired habits more effortless? James Clear suggests that small changes in your environment can make a huge difference. For example, if you want to eat healthier, keep fruits and vegetables visible and within easy reach while storing junk food out of sight. If you want to exercise more, set out your workout clothes the night before so they're the first thing you see in the morning. By making your environment more conducive to the habits you want to form, you make those habits feel easier and more automatic. Let's pause for a moment. How can you begin redesigning your environment today to make your habits easier to practice? Maybe it's rearranging your living space or removing distractions from your work area. Start with small adjustments and gradually make your environment a place that fosters your desired habits. Clear also discusses the role of environmental cues in habit formation. By strategically placing cues for your desired habits in your environment, you create constant reminders to take action. These cues could be physical objects, like a book on your nightstand to remind you to read, or digital reminders, like setting an alarm to prompt you to meditate. The key is to make the habit cues obvious and easy to act on. Think about this. What small changes can you make to your environment today that will act as cues for the habits you want to build? Whether it's setting up reminders or adjusting the layout of your home or workspace, designing your environment can make a huge difference in reinforcing your habits. Chapter 50. The importance of repetition. How to make habits stick in Chapter 50 of Atomic Habits. James Clear delves into the crucial role of repetition in habit formation and how consistent practice is what truly makes habits stick. Clear explains that repetition is the key to turning a new behavior into a permanent part of your routine. The more frequently you repeat a behavior, the more automatic and effortless it becomes over time. Clear stresses that habits are formed through repetition, and it is through repeated action that the brain begins to associate the behavior with a reward. This creates a strong neural pathway that makes it easier to repeat the behavior in the future. Just like any skill, the more you practice, the better you get at it, and the easier it becomes. Take a deep breath and reflect. What habits are you trying to make stick in your life? Have you been consistent in your practice, or have you been inconsistent, making it harder for the habit to form? Repetition is key to mastery, so think about how you can commit to your habits with consistency. James Clear also emphasizes that small repetitions add up over time. It's not about doing something perfectly right away. It's about showing up and repeating the behavior regularly. The key is to focus on making progress, not perfection, and trust that small actions, repeated consistently, will lead to lasting change. Let's pause for a moment. How can you commit to repeating your desired habit every day, even if it's just for a few minutes? Remember, it's the consistent practice of small habits that eventually leads to big results. By focusing on repetition, you can turn your desired behaviors into automatic routines. Clear also points out that repetition reinforces identity. As you repeat a behavior, you begin to identify more with the person who does that behavior. For example, if you consistently exercise, you start to see yourself as an active person, reinforcing the habit. The more you repeat the behavior, the more ingrained it becomes in your identity. Think about this. What habits are you repeating? On a daily basis, are they the habits that align with the person you want to be? The more you repeat your positive habits, the more they become a part of your identity, and the more they will stick. Chapter 51. The Gold Standard, Mastering the Art of Habit Change. In Chapter 51 of Atomic Habits, James Clear discusses the concept of the gold standard in habit change, the idea that mastering habits requires a blend of consistency, reflection, and continuous adaptation. Clear emphasizes that true mastery of a habit doesn't come from rigid adherence to a single process, but from continuously refining and adjusting your approach to make your habits fit your life and goals. Clear introduces the idea that achieving the gold standard means consistently working on your habits, but also recognizing when to make adjustments. It's about finding the sweet spot where your habits serve you in the most effective way. This involves refining your systems, improving your routines, and always being open to change as you evolve. Take a deep breath and reflect. What habits do you feel you have mastered, and where might you need to adjust your approach? Mastery isn't about perfection. It's about continuously evolving and refining your process. Think about the habits that matter most to you and how you can tweak them to be more effective. James Clear also emphasizes the importance of feedback loops in habit formation. Mastering habits requires constant reflection and feedback on your progress. When you review your habits regularly, you can identify areas of improvement and make small, necessary changes that will keep you on the path to mastery. Let's pause for a moment. How often do you take time to reflect on your habits and adjust them? Reflecting regularly helps you stay aligned with your goals and prevents you from getting stuck in an unproductive routine. Consider scheduling time each week to check in on your habits and make any needed adjustments. Clear also discusses how identity-based habits play a role in mastering change. When you identify as someone who practices a specific habit, that behavior becomes ingrained in your life. For example, if you identify as a runner, you don't have to force yourself to run, you simply do it. Identity-based habits are powerful because they align your actions with your sense of self. Think about this. What habits do you want to embed so deeply into your life that they become a natural part of your identity? Whether it's exercising, reading, or writing, consider how you can start viewing yourself as someone who embodies that habit. When a habit becomes part of your identity, it becomes far easier to sustain. Chapter 52. The Law of Least Effort. How to make your habits effortless in Chapter 52 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses the law of least effort, a principle that suggests that human behavior tends to follow the path of least resistance. Clear explains that, in order to make habits stick, it's important to design your environment and routines in such a way that your desired habits are the easiest option available to you. Clear highlights that when it comes to building habits, it's not enough to rely solely on motivation or willpower. Instead, you need to make your habits as effortless as possible by reducing friction and removing obstacles that make it harder to practice them. The easier you make a habit, the more likely you are to repeat it. Take a deep breath and reflect. How easy or difficult are your habits to follow? Are there any barriers or friction points in your routine that make it harder for you to follow through? Consider how you can remove or reduce these obstacles to make your habits more accessible and effortless. James Clear suggests that habit design is key to making habits effortless. This involves setting up your environment and daily routine in such a way that your desired behaviors become automatic. For example, if you want to eat healthier, you could prep meals in advance, making it easier to choose healthy options when you're hungry. If you want to read more, you could place a book on your pillow, making it the first thing you see before going to bed. Let's pause for a moment. How can you start making your habits easier today? Could you adjust your environment, plan ahead, or set up cues that make your habits more effortless? Think about how you can reduce the effort it takes to practice your desired behaviors. Clear also emphasizes that the key to long-term success is to focus on making your habits automatic. By removing friction and turning them into part of your everyday routine. When a habit feels effortless, it becomes part of your identity, and over time, it becomes ingrained in your lifestyle. Think about this. What is one habit you could make easier today? Whether it's setting out your workout clothes the night before or leaving a healthy snack in your bag, small changes in your environment can make your habits easier to stick with. By reducing friction, you increase the chances of success. Chapter 53. The Role of Patience and Persistence in Habit Formation in Chapter 53 of Atomic Habits. James Clear discusses two critical factors in mastering your habits: patience and persistence. Clear explains that the road to habit mastery is often long and challenging. But the secret to success lies in staying committed to the process, no matter how slow the progress seems. Clear emphasizes that patience is about understanding that real, lasting change takes time. We often expect rapid results, but habits, especially the most effective ones, are built slowly. It's easy to feel discouraged if you don't see immediate progress, but the key is to trust the process and keep going. Take a deep breath and reflect. How patient are you with your habits? When you face challenges, do you give up too soon or stick with it even if the results are delayed? Think about one habit you're working on and how you can cultivate more patience with yourself during the process. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about consistent effort over time. James Clear also highlights that persistence is equally important in habit formation. Persistence is the ability to keep going even when the road gets tough and when you feel like giving up. The best results come from those who stay committed to their habits, even through setbacks. The ability to persist through challenges is what ultimately leads to lasting success. Let's pause for a moment. Reflect on a time when you faced a setback in working towards a habit or goal. How did you handle it? Did you persist, or did you let the setback discourage you? It's important to remember that challenges are part of the process, and they often lead to growth. Persistence builds resilience, and each small step counts. Clear also discusses how habit tracking can be a useful tool to build both patience and persistence. Tracking your progress, even when it feels small, helps you see how far you've come. It provides visible proof of your efforts, which encourages you to keep going. Even if progress feels slow, tracking allows you to celebrate small wins, reinforcing your commitment. Think about this. How can you incorporate habit tracking into your routine to measure your progress and stay motivated? Whether it's a habit tracking app, a journal, or a simple calendar, tracking your habits helps you stay consistent and gives you the visual feedback you need to keep going. Chapter 54. How to use habits to achieve your long-term goals. In Chapter 54 of Atomic Habits, James Clear explores how habits are not just for day-to-day tasks, but are powerful tools for achieving your long-term goals. Clear argues that long-term success doesn't come from setting big, distant goals and hoping for the best. Instead, it's the consistent, small habits that, when aligned with your larger vision, lead to transformative results. Clear explains that long-term goals are achieved through small, consistent habits. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of the big picture, but long-term success is built on the foundation of daily actions that, over time, compound and lead to significant progress. The key is not to focus solely on the goal, but to design habits that support your progress toward it. Take a deep breath and reflect. What long-term goals do you have, and how do your daily habits align with them? Are there any habits you could introduce that would make achieving these goals easier? It's essential to break down your larger goals into manageable, consistent habits that you can practice daily. James Clear also discusses the importance of tracking your progress when it comes to long-term goals. By tracking your habits, you get real-time feedback on how close you're getting to your ultimate vision. Clear suggests that tracking not only helps you stay motivated, but also provides clarity on what's working and what needs adjustment. It's about measuring your habits in relation to your progress. Let's pause for a moment. How could you start tracking your habits today? Whether it's a physical journal, a digital app, or just a simple checklist, tracking helps you see the cumulative impact of your efforts over time. The small habits you practice today lead to the big changes you want tomorrow. Clear also emphasizes the importance of flexibility in achieving long-term goals. Sometimes, our goals or circumstances change, and our habits need to adapt. Flexibility doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means adjusting your habits and approaches when necessary. The ability to stay flexible allows you to continue working towards your goals, no matter the changes in your environment. Think about this. How could you stay flexible with your habits while still working toward your long-term goals? Can you think of ways to adjust your habits if you face obstacles or changes in your circumstances? Flexibility in your approach helps you maintain progress even when things don't go exactly as planned. Chapter 55: How to break bad habits and replace them with good ones. In Chapter 55 of Atomic Habits, James Clear focuses on the process of breaking bad habits and replacing them with good ones. While it's important to build positive habits, breaking bad ones is equally crucial. Clear explains that to effectively break a bad habit, you must understand the cues that trigger it and make those habits harder to engage in. Simply trying to rely on willpower isn't enough. You need to change your environment and make the bad habit harder to access. Clear discusses how habit stacking can help you replace a bad habit with a better one. By linking a new, positive habit to an existing behavior, you create a natural transition that makes the new habit easier to adopt. For example, if you're trying to quit smoking, you can link a breathing exercise or a walk to the moment when you would usually smoke. The key is to stack a positive habit onto the moment of temptation. Take a deep breath and reflect. What are some of the bad habits in your life that you want to break? What cues trigger those habits? Reflecting on these patterns will help you design a strategy to replace bad habits with positive ones. By identifying your triggers, you can reframe your routine to make healthier choices. James Clear also explains that environment design is critical in breaking bad habits. If a particular bad habit is tied to a specific environment, such as junk food in the kitchen or distractions at your desk, you can make that environment less conducive to the habit. Removing cues that trigger the bad habit is a key step in breaking it. Let's pause for a moment. How can you redesign your environment to break bad habits? For example, if your goal is to eat healthier, remove unhealthy snacks from your kitchen and place healthier options in sight. By making your environment supportive of your goals, you reduce the temptation to fall into bad habits. Clear highlights that substituting a bad habit with a better one is more effective than simply trying to eliminate a behavior. By focusing on the positive replacement, you give yourself something constructive to focus on rather than just trying to avoid the old habit. The key is to create new routines that fulfill the same need as the bad habit, but in a healthier way. Think about this. What positive habits can you introduce to replace your bad habits? By focusing on the benefits of the new habit, you can gradually phase out the old, unwanted behavior. Remember, replacement is key. Instead of eliminating a habit, you replace it with something that better serves your goals. Chapter 56: The Truth. About mastery and becoming the best at what you do. In this final chapter of Atomic Habits, James Clear shares a truth that many overlook. Mastery is not about reaching a peak, it's about the process. The greatest performers in any field aren't driven by goals alone. They are in love with the daily practice, the subtle grind, and the continual refinement of their craft. Clear explains that the key to becoming exceptional lies in embracing boredom. That may sound strange at first, but the truth is, professionals stick to their routines even when the novelty wears off. They show up, they do the reps, they push forward not because it's always exciting, but because they understand that consistency compounds. Think about this. What do you do when the initial excitement wears off? Most people quit, but the people who achieve mastery keep going. That's what separates the top 1% from everyone else. The willingness to keep practicing, even when it's no longer fun, is a superpower. James Clear writes, Mastery requires patience. This chapter encourages us to ask, are we willing to practice our habits even when they're boring? Are we committed to the process, even when results are slow to appear? That's where greatness is born. Let's take a quiet moment to reflect. What area of your life are you ready to master? Can you commit to small daily habits, not for the glory or the quick win, but because you believe in becoming better, one quiet, invisible step at a time? As this book closes, remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are nothing but a collection of habits stacked, refined, practiced, and protected over time. This is the power of atomic habits. And this is your invitation not just to learn, but to live them. Conclusion: we've reached the final page of Atomic Habits. But in many ways, this is just the beginning. Because what this book has truly shown us is that greatness doesn't come from sudden breakthroughs, but from the small, repeated actions we take day after day. James Clear reminds us that your habits are not just what you do, they are who you're becoming. Each time you make a tiny decision aligned with your values to move, to read, to speak with intention, you cast a vote for the person you want to be. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to begin. Remember, success is not a goal to chase, but a system to build, patiently, quietly, and relentlessly. So from this moment on, choose your next small step and take it, because every great transformation begins with one atomic habit.